shotgun.
It's a truly complicated weapon system.
It's not just point and shoot.
We need to get that round out of the chamber, get a slug in there.
It's the most violent weapon system out there.
There you go, beat it, beat it.
I don't use a pump to scare somebody. I use a pump to shoot somebody.
There is nothing defensive about firing at another human being.
I need 2 rounds, I need 2 rounds.
So we've got the next 3 days to find that failure point. Hey guys, thanks for coming out. Welcome to Magpul Dynamics Dynamic Shotgun Employment. You know, Chris and I really enjoy running this gun and running this course because it's truly a unique weapon system. It's unique in a lot of different ways because if you look back in history, dating back hundreds of years, beyond the Civil War, back in even the later 1700s, into all the way up until the modern shotguns of today, there are so many different uses and applications for this weapon system, whether it's military, law enforcement, back in the old coach days, Wild West, you think back to those days and how they employed shotguns as intimidation tools, or as it was known as the point and shoot weapon. So we'll talk about a lot of those different concepts. Hunting, obviously shotgun's been around in hunting for many centuries. Competitive world, whether you're a 3-gun shooter, cowboy action shooting, clay shooting sports, trap and skeet, lots of different uses out there. We also know that the shotgun has many different characteristics. Look at all the different shotguns out here. We've got so many different types of actions. You've got brake actions, lever actions, even bolt actions. Pump actions obviously are popular shotgun, semi-automatic shotguns, and even fully automatic shotguns nowadays. So again, you're going to see a lot of different uses, applications, and actions out here. So it's not just like a carbine or a handgun where you put a source of ammo in it and you charge it, basically like a 1, 2, 3 step type of thing. And with all those applications and uses, it truly is the most complicated weapon system in any arsenal out there.
One of the things that I like about the shotgun is that it's the most violent weapon system out there. Within the pull of one trigger, you could have 9 rounds flying at you and impacting you. That's a really big force multiplier in a time-is-life situation. However, just like Travis said, it's truly the most complicated because there's a lost art to it. What I specifically mean by that is the versatility has been kind of lost over the time, and that is your ability to go from certain rounds, switch those rounds out in a moment's notice to other rounds that you may need, whether it be for distance or whether it's for something up close and personal because you planned wrong. What you're going to see with the shotgun is that you are doing a couple things with it, generally shooting it or loading it. It runs out of ammo very, very quickly. So over the next few days, you guys are definitely going to get great at the weapons manipulation portion of it. We don't necessarily care how good you run your gun when it is fully loaded. I care how you run your gun when it starts running out of ammunition, when there's problems, when you have to actually solve a problem with that gun under stress.
Hurry up, Steve, hurry up, beat it.
When you have to run up to a particular portion of the course that we're gonna do and immediately go from double-aught buck to a slug. That, at that moment in time, you're gonna be faced with the problem, and how you solve it is going to be very, very important. So again, I'm not so concerned about how you guys are acting and worrying about specifically when your gun's fully loaded. It's when you have to start changing and manipulating that gun that I'm more concerned about.
And that's where the core principles come into play. All right, we've got our normal core principles. If you've been through our training or seen our training films in the past, you know that we are all about reality, efficiency, and consistency. All right, those things are going to be very important for the next 3 days for you guys to break down and understand the mechanics of these weapon systems, since they're all different out here. Everybody's going to be doing different techniques. So leads to the first thing, whether you are in any of those categories that I mentioned before, uses of law enforcement, military, competitor, style, hunter, you've got to understand the reality of your application of that particular weapon system in your lifestyle. Okay, so that's the reality side of it. The reality side, like Chris just talked about, when things go wrong. When that shotgun starts working and it starts running out of ammo and you are under serious stress, if you're that law enforcement or military type of guy out there, or even under the competition stress, what are you doing? How are you loading that gun? That's the reality behind it, because when your heart rate starts kicking up and all these fine motor skills start working with this shotgun, and you got every time, it's not just a magazine that you're putting in this gun, you got to individually load this thing. So that's where the reality comes into play. So you always got to take that into consideration out here. The efficiency side of the house. Efficiency is one of the key golden nuggets to making you run that shotgun better. Everything you do, hand motions, body motions, feet movements, everything has got to be very well thought out when this gun starts going into action. Minimizing those hand movements, because again, these things only have a very limited capacity of ammunition. So you've got to use it wisely, and it takes longer to load the gun, for example. So how efficient are you being trying to get that gun back up? That's going to save you time in a time-of-life situation or out on the competition range. So efficiency is very important. Now, efficiency just doesn't mean, obviously, speed and movements. It also means accuracy. And most people will say that the truly the best shotgun guy is the guy that understands his patterns. So you've got to have an efficiency and accuracy. So if you don't know your patterning from any different distance, that's an efficiency and effectiveness issue there. So we've got to understand that, and we're going to break that down into really fine detail here in the next 3 days. Consistency. Consistency is one of the biggest things to making you a better shooter no matter what weapon system you run. But specifically out here, since there's a lot of complications with this particular platform, you've got to be consistent. Once you find that technique, the correct and effective technique, you've got to be consistent at it. Every time you pick that gun up, every time you drop a round in or a combat or speed reload or whatever the drill or technique that you're using, it's got to be consistent, because what consistency does is it leads to long-term potentiation of learning. Just like in our lifestyle, in our lifetime, we've got to have massive repetition at something before we get it down. So again, we're working on those basic building blocks, and once you guys find the effective, correct building blocks, we've got to be consistent at it. All right.
Yeah, one of the things that I'll leave you guys on is working to our failure points. We're going to reach a failure point with this platform. It usually happens really quick. Sometimes you have to take what you can get. Grabbing onto those shells, it can be awkward. Sometimes they fall on the ground. That is a reality that is going to happen when you're under stress. So what do? We solve that problem and we fix it on the fly as best as possible. So it's not as simple as inserting a box magazine into the gun and charging it. There's a lot of different things that take place with this gun. Now, things that we're going to show you are just some of the ways in which to manipulate some of the guns that you guys have and some of the platform. There are many different platforms out here. So the bottom line is, at the end of the day, we're going to show you some things, we're going to give you some tools, but you're going to have to think, is this what works best for me? And the way we choose that is what works best for us 98% of the time. Can I do a particular technique 98% of the time? And can I do that under stress, which is what we're going to be looking at here, and manipulate the complicated things that end up happening with this. Because right now, this is static range, but out in the real world, we know that things move fast. That leads me into the 4 firearm safety rules. As I start to cover these, we start thinking about them as range safety rules. That's what we were always briefed on. Hey, you're about to shoot guns and go live fire out on a range. These are range safety rules. We look at it a little differently now. It is life safety rules. These things will follow you around no matter where you go. And if you're not careful, and if you decide to shortcut them, they will bite you in the ass, bottom line. So rule number 1 is all weapons are always loaded. All weapons are always loaded. Rule number 2, never point your muzzle at anything you're not willing to destroy. Okay, very, very important when you're thinking about a home defense or a LEO going into an active shooter, and that's all you have is that 12-gauge shotgun. Very important at that point. These rules are on your back. They're not left at the range. They're going with you right through the door as you're going in to smoke some active shooter because he's mowing down a bunch of kids, or to defend your household if that's the weapon that you choose. Okay. Rule number 3 is keep your finger straight and off the trigger until you're coming up on target with the intent to fire, and that means keeping your gun on safe until you're coming up with the intent to fire as well. When you're moving with this gun, we move on safe. Why? Because shit will happen and it will bite you in the ass. You'll trip, slip, fall in some school, and next thing you know, you didn't just have an AD, you had a negligent discharge, which means something happened and your finger slipped on a trigger and the gun went off. Those rules are there to protect you guys. Last rule is always be aware of your target's foreground and background. Very important as a homeowner, because if you miss a shot with that gun, the amount of damage that gun can do going through drywall, penetrating on the other side, if you end up missing a shot, you could end up shooting somebody on the other side. So you always have to be aware of your surroundings. Target's foreground, what's in front of your muzzle, what's on the other side of that target that you're shooting if you end up missing, and there's a good chance that you may under stress. So again, these are life safety rules that follow you everywhere you go. Everywhere you go.
You know, talking about failure points, like Chris had touched on there, we all live in that world of failure. But it's up for you to find it. Okay, it's up to you to find it, because we know that out in in a stress situation in the real world, if you're a law enforcement or military guy, maybe you're a hunter just trying to make a good shot and not, damage the animal and not get your kill, or you're out on a competitive range, you've got to find that failure, because what happens there is failure is not an option at that point. All right, but out here we've got the next 3 days to find that failure point. All right, because we live in that world, we've got to be non-absolute. And the day that you ever look at yourself and you feel like you're set in a particular inertia of organization or of doctrine, we sometimes have to step out of that and make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing to excel up that ladder of excellence. Because that's exactly what that is. That's what those failure points are. A failure point is a rung, and that rung is on the ladder of excellence to becoming a better shooter. So where are you on that ladder of excellence? Everybody out here is different. You all have a different level right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to an altitude on that ladder where you can look around and go, whew, man, I'm a little nervous with this altitude. So you're going to sit there. You're going to get comfortable for a little bit. Sometimes we'll climb up and we'll slip and fall. And we may break some rungs. We may take some people down with us in that ladder. But however, we've got to continue to climb it. And some days we wake up and we don't want to. We get lazy. We want to dig a hole and crawl underneath just to see what's on the other side. Well, I will tell you that there is nothing on the other side, because the ladder of excellence never ends. So that's what you're out here to do. So we appreciate you guys coming out and being open-minded to techniques, because again, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat with the shotgun. So we've already discussed the medical brief. Obviously the medical brief is very in-depth, so it's always good to have a very well planned out medevac brief, 911 procedures, all that stuff, so everybody here is on the same sheet of music. So for everybody out there that does any type of shooting, whether you're by yourself or in a group of people or law enforcement or military, it's very important, just like those 4 fire safety rules, to sit down and make sure that your medical brief is spot on. So when something happens, when something goes wrong, because again, we're not out here playing tennis or golf, this is weapons manipulation, and people get shot, people get killed. So we got to take that very seriously. So make sure that is always set in motion. Okay? So with that, talking about all the different types of weapon systems and actions and demographics of shooters out there, because we know that looking back in history, there's so many different types. We'd like to do a little intro and see who we got with us here today.
My name's Ricky Menino. I'm a pharmacist, I'm a business owner, 3-gun competitor. More importantly, I'm a father and a husband. I shoot 3-gun because I enjoy it, but I'm out here today because I am a father and I am a husband, and it's my job to protect my family, and that's why I'm out here.
My name's Stephen Rebin. I'm a supervisor with the Sheriff's Office here in Louisiana. Been doing that for 9 years, SRT for 3 years, K9 for 3 years. Just want to come out and learn from you guys how to run my shotgun better on and off duty.
My name is Jason Wong. I'm a chef and owner of a restaurant here in Louisiana. I'm also a 3-gun competitor. I've been doing it for about 4 years or so. And I'm basically out here to learn new shotgun techniques for competition and also as self-defense. You know, here in Louisiana with hurricanes and everything, you never know what might happen, so it's better to be prepared than be sorry.
Hi, my name's Delonda Dykes. I'm a law enforcement officer in Louisiana. I've been working in that capacity for about 7 years. I'm here today to get more proficient with the shotgun.
Steve Fisher, I'm a firearms instructor, former law enforcement officer, and industry professional right now. Come out today just to learn some new techniques on running the shotgun and get a different perspective on things.
My name is Stephen Jenkins. I'm a law enforcement patrol supervisor here in Louisiana. I'm here today to learn better techniques to be able to effectively use my shotgun in case I have to use it in the line of duty.
Thomas Noto. I've been a law enforcement officer for 15 years, 5 of those as a sheriff's deputy, 10 years as a state trooper. I worked 7 years undercover as a state trooper in narcotics. I've been teaching firearms for 12 years to a bunch of different law enforcement officers. I try to learn from guys who have a good common sense approach, simple tactics, and take that information back to the officers that I teach.
My name is Drake Clark. I've got a background in law enforcement. I currently work at Magpul Industries. The reason I'm here today is to improve my shotgun skills. I spent a lot of time behind a carbine and pistol and not so much behind a shotgun, and I know there's room for improvement, so I'm ready to improve.
Hi, my name is Neil Batelli. I run a gun shop in Jacksonville, Florida that primarily deals with military, law enforcement, self-defense style guns. We get people coming in all the time looking for any variety of guns. A lot of people look for shotguns. So I always like the opportunity to come out here and run the gun, see what works for myself, others, and sometimes more importantly what doesn't work. So I can go back and report what I've seen and found out running the different guns and trying to pass it on, or try and pass on good information to other people who are looking to defend themselves and our community.
As usual, great demographics of shooters out here. You can see there's all shapes and sizes and different backgrounds and lifestyles and experience. So we appreciate you guys coming out, and let's get it started. We're gonna go back, grab our guns, our ammo, and everything that we need to start off with zero, and we'll get to it if you guys are ready.
All right, let's go. All right, guys, what we're gonna get into is zeroing. A couple things that we have to understand about zeroing a shotgun. Ammo. Ammo can affect your point of aim, point of impact just by changing the amount of feet per second that you're using, okay? So anytime you change ammo after you've sighted your gun in, it is very, very important that you come back out to the range and see either what your dope needs to change to or what your holdovers need to change to. Now, let's get into some of the ways that the shotgun's set up. Most of the factory guns come with a bead front sight. There is no manipulation on that gun. There is no ability for you to change your sights to a point of aim, point of impact if you start sighting in with slugs or based on your pattern. So you will have to understand what your holdovers are and also work in distance as well. That drastically can affect you. So you're concerned if you run a bead on both windage and elevation in regards to holdovers. Like I said, the ammo can drastically change that for you. So sometimes you have to play with different brands of ammunition. Now, let's talk about the sights. You'll see on some of the 3-gun shotguns that are out here, there's an ability to adjust those sights. Some of them are fiber optic to help you see them better and more clear. That's great. Anytime that you're running an adjustable sight, that allows you that flexibility to constantly change with the ammo. For this shotgun, I'm running a red dot, so it's very similar. Every time I come out here, I will dope in with a particular brand of ammunition, and then I work that out at distance. This just allows me a little bit of flexibility. Plus I get to shoot with both eyes open, and it's a little more refined. So that's really it. We're gonna fire 3 shots, go down range, check our target, and make our adjustments. For those of us who can make adjustments, we will make adjustments. For those of us that can't, now you have to start memorizing your holdover. A couple things before we actually go live here. We're gonna just do an admin load. We're gonna cover combat load and speed reload later, but right now, just to get ammo into the gun, proper way that we're gonna do that, or I'm just gonna advocate, is at least get one in, right into the chamber. That's my first priority with a 12 gauge shotgun. As soon as this thing runs dry, I need to feed the ejection port immediately. I'm gonna throw this forward, and then at that point, I'm just gonna start feeding in some ammo like such. We'll cover again more in depth on combat reload and speed reload and some different ways in which you may want to choose to do it. This is just the way I do it for right now. So just to keep everybody on the same sheet of music. A couple things. We know that typically with a rifle, you can shoot it off of a bench or you can shoot it prone. I choose to shoot it prone because I like just being as close to the ground as possible. However, with a shotgun, shooting slugs, when you try to get down on the ground, you really have to elevate the front end of this gun to get a proper cheek on it. Getting a proper cheek weld on this gun is extremely important because what will end up happening is you'll get your dope on the ground, and then when you start standing up, it'll change. And the reason why it's going to change is because you are not going to get the same consistent cheek on the stock. So what I truly believe is, for simplicity, shooting off of a bench is a little bit easier on the shotgun. It will also put your chest in a more natural position to allow you to get your cheek on the gun where it needs to be, whereas prone, most of the time, most people don't like it because it ends up on your collarbone. And shooting slugs off your collarbone is not what you want to do for an extended period of time. So once we load, we're going to come up, get into a good shooting position on the bench, and I'm just going to lay my forend on this bag, okay? From here, the only thing that I'm going to do is get in behind the gun and just kind of get nice and supported as low as possible. But what am I focusing on right now? What part of the gun did I say you really need to focus on? A good cheek weld, where my face meets the stock of that gun, okay? I want to get a good purchase on that stock. Now, a couple things. I'm going to bench this pump up forward. When I fire it, it's probably going to break the action back. That's fine. I'm not so concerned right now on the handling of the gun and super fast speed. I'm concerned on actually getting it into a good level position. So if you see the bar break, that's fine. It doesn't matter at this point. All right, guys, have any questions? Settle in behind the gun however you need to. If you want to stabilize up forward, you can. If you want to stabilize under here, you can. If you're running a semi-auto, it may not matter as much.
All the usual stuff applies. Trigger control, breathing, sight alignment, sight picture, just like you guys are used to on running carbines or any other weapon system.
Once you guys are done firing your 3, just leave your gun on the bench and then stand up. We'll know you're ready. We'll go down with your gun after though and make our dope corrections. Guys ready to 0? All right, let's go.
All right, first 5 shooters, go ahead and come up on the line. Make sure you got your eyes and ears, and the line is hot.
As soon as you guys come up, load and make ready, gas them up.
Put 3 rounds in the gun. Load the breech first. Line's hot, go ahead and commence fire with 3 rounds. Once you fire your 3 rounds, unload, show clear. Wait for everybody else to get done. All right, if you guys are finished shooting your 3 rounds and the bolts are, or the guns are unloaded and show clear, go ahead and step off the line, take your guns with you. Next 4 shooters, go ahead and step up.
Don't forget when you fire, reset, so don't forget about resetting that trigger. All right, guys, let's head downrange. All right, Delonda, not too bad. Got them all in the green. Could hold a little tighter. You know what I mean? It could be a little bit of breathing, just try to get that group down. I mean, if you're already shooting to where it's that good. So would you make any adjustments right now based on that configuration? I mean, if that's where you're aiming is dead center.
No, I like that.
Okay, good deal.
All right, Jason, really tight group, man. I know you're used to running that gun a lot. Since obviously that's a fiber sight, what's your corrections for that? Or would you correct this?
I think I want to move it over a little bit to the left. Just get I mean, it's a good group, but I want to move it over a little bit to the left so I get a good center hit.
Okay.
So we've got 2 really good shots over here, 1 over here. Is that just you pulling the trigger, or?
Probably.
And you're running complete bead, right? Yeah. So at least we know you're in that green.
All right, Steve, what do you think, man?
Well, I obviously pulled this one. These 2 here, I mean, it's a pretty good group. See, I was shooting always off to the right. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm running iron sight, so it's not much adjusting I can do. Just
right.
Probably use a little windage.
All right, Steve. So you have a really tight group right here. So obviously we need to take that optic and get it back down into here, or at least work your windage if you're running a 25-yard 0, which is close to a 100-yard 0. So I would at least, though, as tight as you're shooting right here, I would at least bump you over with your optic. All right, good shooting, Steve. Real tight group.
So little fundamentals, let's get this group a little tighter and best you can, and so we can find a pattern, because if this is where this gun is hitting back at that range, then obviously we got a holdover issue. So every time you shoot somebody from 50 or 100 yards, I mean, we're at 50 and already missing this guy, so you know that you're basically gonna have to hold out here to hit this dude. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration with that gun. And obviously if it's gonna be used in a life or death situation, you know how that is, under stress, trying to go, oh wait, I can't hold here, I gotta hold here. And that's just 50, so you go out to 100, you're talking now possible liability shot. So that's why, you know, optics are a serious component on a shotgun that people don't normally think about. But let's get a little fundamentally better group, and then we'll go from there.
Drake running a bead, good shot there. So now you know that you had a really good press of the trigger.
I was holding. I probably pulled a little bit on this one, but I was holding.
Okay, so obviously since you can't adjust anything, this particular ammunition is holding slightly left. Obviously you have a really good group, so consistent, which means that at 50, if you had to take a shot on this guy, your reality is having to hold over in here. So at least you have that knowledge. And of course, if you change ammunition, it might actually change. It might actually be dead center. So great job, nice group.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we just zeroed our shotguns using slugs. Obviously, there's a lot of different sights out here, so keep in mind whatever your adjustments are based on what your sights are, or if you ever pick up another shotgun, it's not the same like the whole misconception is. Obviously, there's a lot of bead sights out there. Some of you guys with those bead sights, specifically law enforcement types, you guys are finding that you have to hold now. So think about that in a reality life situation. When you're taking a shot on somebody at 50 yards or 100 yards even, which is an easy shot with a shotgun slug, in a school, let's say, on an active shooter, okay, or a deer at 100 yards, and you want to make that clean, perfect kill, you've got to know your holds now, because you really can't adjust that thing. So, or you enhance your gun and get sights that you can put on there to make sure you're getting your hits. So zeroing's done, everybody's down, got their holds or got their zeros good. What we're going to talk about now is patterning.
Now patterns are very important because they're going to differ slightly based on the shotguns that you guys are employing right now. Some of you guys are running choke, some of you guys are running wide open. So you need to know what your distance is and where your limits are with that gun. What we're gonna do is the drill's gonna start off at 5. We'll go down, we'll mark the target, we'll see where your pellets hit. Then we'll start it at 15, fire 1 round, see if it changes, then go to 25. Past 25, I usually, at that point, I'm going to slug because of liability, because I know that if I start launching 9 pellets in the air, there's a good chance that not as many of them are going to hit the target. But again, this is you knowing your gun, because maybe your gun is set up with the type of choke system to where you can get away with proper ammo, actually taking a shot at 35 yards or even 50 with some of the modifications that can be done. I know that if I run a certain type of gun with a certain type of ammunition, I can still do good hits and have a really good pattern with buckshot out at 50. But the average shotgun, what we're looking at right now is the average shotgun that you would buy in the store. What are you going to end up with? And most of the time, 25 yards, you're pushing that platform unless you do something specific to it. So you guys ready to get started, see what our patterns are? All right, let's go.
All right, guys, range is hot. Gas them up. Load and make ready.
All right, on you, Neil. See, when you fired that first shot, did you feel your body go back? So instead of constantly doing that, put your foot right over in here. There you go. And then have a good bend in your knees. Okay, good deal.
Safety's on, guys. Muzzle's down. We're gonna go down range, look at our group.
All right. That's obviously your shot. So this is your pattern. You know that, and that's a wad, obviously.
Pretty tight.
Hopefully it'll stay that way.
Yeah, hopefully it will. We'll see. We'll watch.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 7, 8, and 9 are up in here. And obviously your wad's right in there too, so.
All right, Delonda, that's actually wadding, believe it or not, right there. And that's your group. So that's 9 pellets that just went through that hole. So in a sense, you carry a handgun, right? Yes. A 9mm? Yes. So obviously you have to pull the trigger on your handgun 9 individual times, and you just put 9 rounds in a $50 with 1 trigger pull.
You aiming for that, Doc?
I just was listening more than I was.
All right.
I was aiming for green.
You got a choke on that thing, don't you?
Yeah, I'm running proof cylinder.
So what I'd like you to do for this next one is aim at that just to show so it starts to expand as we move back.
All right, really nice. And you're running, Drake, a stock 870 right from the gun shop to your hands. So that's a pretty good group right there. All right, we'll see how long it keeps that.
All right, shooters, let's go ahead and move back to the 15-yard line.
All right, on you, Neil.
All right, let's move down range once the line's cold.
All right, Neil. So on this one, got a good majority of them in, but we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 that got cut loose. So we got 5 in and 4 out.
So you see that choke working there for you. 2, 3, 4, 5. And obviously that's a good gun.
They're all pretty tight to the center, okay? And the rest are inside. Not too bad, so 15 yards, getting a little bit bigger.
Interesting pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, interesting.
Steve?
Still stayed tight.
Yeah.
Where we were in here, but we had the wad fly.
You know, when we think about the shotgun, we think about it in that way of, well, we want to try to throw out a wide spread. And in reality now, knowing that, you know, in home defense, we could end up hitting, you know, somebody else, a friendly in the house or in a law enforcement capacity. You were a former law enforcement officer. We understand that bottom line is those missed shots are liabilities. And we want the rounds concentrated on the bad guy. So, I mean, I think the writing's on the wall, which is modify your gun if you're seriously going to carry a shotgun. Good shoot, Steve. that's like missing twice with a 9mm for all intents and purposes. So 25 yards is definitely pushing it. So would you go to a slug out of 25 yards if you had to take a good critical shot?
Yeah.
Sure. Now, let's just say you were engaging this guy and there was nobody in the backdrop. Is that still acceptable if you know where those rounds are going to go?
Yeah, if I could see that it was clear, I
Sure.
probably would not waste the time
And do a slug changeover or do anything. Yeah, absolutely. So that's where the those life safety rules come into play, understanding the target's foreground and background. If I'm in a heavily wooded area like this and I get under fire, then I'm not going to be switching over. I'm just going to work this guy, and at least I know the limitations of my guns. I might have a few pellets off, but out of 9, I've got 7, that are going to be on this guy, or I can suppress him with double aught buck until I can get to a position to work a slug. So great shooting.
Think about this, we're at 25 with a shotgun. So if you had to employ a shotgun in that active shooter type of situation, that's something to think about right there. Yeah. These are all possible liabilities that we have to worry about and be responsible for.
Got a couple off there. So again, as long as you're in a good open area and you know what the backdrop is, you can get away with it. But if this was a school, if this was a gunman, and you responded to an active shooter, is this something that you need to take into consideration, distance right now?
Most definitely.
Absolutely. So this is why we come out here and shoot, and this is just one type of ammunition, because if we change the ammo, that group may go down even though it's the same gun. So that's why we always have to come out here and practice with this style.
It's a pretty interesting pattern just at 25. This stock smooth barrel.
This is a modified gun, so I mean, it totally, probably 35 yards. How big until you actually have to start worrying about it
40
on average?
yards with this gun, and depending
upon
so
loads.
40, 45 yards.
So you can get away because you've modified your gun where other people can't. And of course, in a hasty situation, if I picked a gun up off the street and I had to use it or employ it, then I at least have the knowledge of, hey, if it's a stock gun and it's not modified,
I might want to knock that distance back and say, 20 yards, 25-ish at the max.
Absolutely, really good shooting.
Still running pretty tight, but even with that tight choke gun, just like Jason down there, he's already starting to come off too. If it was a defense situation, even like if you're talking to home defense situation and this person's within your house or out in your yard presenting a lethal threat during a hurricane or something, again, are we having liabilities or is there a collateral damage concern at that point? So, and you're running pretty far. Yeah. So
we like to keep all 9 pellets on a 16-inch target. 25 is what we like to shoot.
Yeah. That's working good. Just again, human beings, liability shots. We always like to throw that out because some people think that it's okay, that's good, that's what I want. But is it really what we want? It depends on the situation, right?
The funny thing about this target is we're dealing with actually a female, so you have a smaller frame, so your margin of error, just like in real life, is going to decrease. But I mean, we've got one down there, and pretty much all the rest are within acceptable rings. So with that gun being modified as well, you can actually get a little bit more distance out of it if you needed to. So really good shooting, good accuracy. All right, guys. One of the things that we do when we come out here with experienced shooters is just kind of let you guys get into your normal shooting stance. But before we go any further, what I want to do now is I want to talk about that grip and stance, because that's our foundation. There's a lot of misconceptions with the shotgun, meaning we start finding ourselves getting into really bizarre positions and really aggressively leaning forward to the target, and it's somewhat necessary and somewhat not. Our control comes from what Travis and I will tell you is our upper body. Upper body controls that gun. Now, with a shotgun, we try to look at more of a push and pull technique, and it's to help mitigate the recoil that the shooter feels. Because if you're a smaller body type and you don't have a lot of mass to back it up, or you're a big body type and you're concerned primarily about fast shots, then this is really going to help you. What we're going to look at here is some exaggeration drills on the shotgun, because like I said, most of us, we grab this shotgun, and if my threat's over there, what a lot of people do is they kind of get in here, really leaning forward, and then what happens is this recoil goes off the shoulder, okay? Meaning I want to back the gun up with body mass, body mass, body mass. So that's what we're going to cover right now. All right, any questions so far? Okay. All right. First thing that I'll talk about, controlling a gun. Again, this is going to be an exaggeration drill. I'm not so concerned about getting my hits as I want you to watch the body parts that are being isolated to control the gun. Very, very important, because like I said, a lot of us have this image of we really got to get behind the gun and try to control it and all this stance, and we're going to break it down into what our weapon hand can do, what our reaction hand can do in conjunction with our weapon hand, and then our body posture after that. So this first one's an exaggeration drill. Also, I grabbed a non-ported gun. Okay, so that way you're not like, well, he's doing a demo on a ported gun, so it's giving him an advantage. And the rounds that we're shooting out here are tactical law enforcement rounds, double-aught buck. All right, so this is first an exaggeration drill on the weapon hand only. How much did I get blown back? Did I fall over? That's just with my weapon hand on that one. Okay, so I'll demo it one more time just so you understand. This is just my wrist. This is just one wrist on the gun. Now, do I want to shoot the gun like this with one hand? Absolutely not, but what about an emergency? What about if this is my only lifeline right now and I had to shoot it one-handed? Did I need to get into some weird grip, or could I be doing that on my ass? Could I be doing it off of a knee? Absolutely. All right, so I'm gonna come back up and just demo it one more time. Okay, not even really into an aggressive stance. Now, we know that two hands on the gun is much better than one hand on the gun. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna apply a little bit of forward pressure on the pump. And this is gonna be different for everybody. It's gonna be a feeling, and it's gonna take you a little bit to get used to this. What I wanna do is bring the pad in, and I want it to make contact with my body, okay? But my reaction hand does have a little bit of forward pressure on the gun. To do this particular demo, what I'm gonna do is not make contact with the pad, okay? So from here, I'm gonna extend the gun out, just like this, not make contact, and fire, okay? Notice where the gun is. It moved, but it didn't move back really bad, really aggressive. I'll do it one more time. I'm just extending the gun out, pressure forward. Why am I going pressure forward? Because of what? It can help control and mitigate that recoil, okay? Now, how much pressure do I put this gun on when I put it on my body? Enough to know it's there, okay? So the first portion of that demonstration is to understand what my weapon hand is capable of by itself for both emergency situations and understanding how to mitigate recoil. Second is what my reaction hand can actually do in regards to controlling and mitigating that recoil, so what doesn't get wasted all day long after shooting, whether it's slugs or double-aught buck. My shoulder, okay? So this is, if I have a very small frame, then I am damn sure gonna be utilizing some type of technique to help keep that constant pressure off my shoulder all day long. All right, did that make sense? Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at lower body, because I told you that a lot of control comes from upper body. And that is true. Upper body is very, very important. Just hard to balance. Now, let me ask you this. Do I want to shoot the shotgun with just one hand? Do I want to shoot the shotgun without making contact with my upper body? Is that what we're advocating? No. Do I want to shoot the shotgun on one leg? Absolutely not. Okay, absolutely not, unless it's the only leg I got at that point, which is a very, very bad day for you. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to put everything together. I want to get into that good fighting stance. I want to get that good push-pull technique going. We know, just like Travis said earlier, I'm not playing tennis here. I am trying to put down either one person or multiple people as fast as I can. So my goal is to get behind the gun aggressively. Regardless of what you've been told, when you see the word defensive, there is nothing defensive about firing at another human being. It is an offensive gunfight at that point. You are offensively trying to neutralize that threat. Now, we can put all the smoke and mirror and words that we want to on it for the courts, but if this guy comes into my house, I'm trying to offensively neutralize him as fast as possible, because the reality is he is trying to do the same to me. All right, so I'm gonna get behind the gun, get it cheeked, and control it with everything that I have. All right, so what we're gonna be working on is that push-pull technique throughout the whole entire course. so we can mitigate that recoil, so we can clean as many threats as possible. For LEOs, that's very important because your ass is on the line every single day, and then my ass is on the line when you got to come in and rescue me and my family, right? So any advantage that you guys can get is extremely important. So that covers stance. Any questions? All right. All right, guys. Now we're going to move on to the bulk of the material where things really start to become important based on the way your body is, the way your mechanics are, and the type of gun that you're running. Remember that the shotgun, it's truly a thinking man's weapon, meaning you need to think a few steps ahead. Hey, I'm starting to run low on ammo. I might need to do a combat reload or emergency reload, and I'm going to show you some different ways to do it. In the end, remember that as you're shooting the shotgun, you need to be loading it. Shoot, load, shoot, load. Those are generally the only two things you're doing with the weapon system. When you're not shooting it, obviously it's a pretty simple thing. Now, obviously what we're looking at and concentrating on is some economy of motion and some movements. You're going to see me do things a certain way. I do them for a reason. I will give you that reason, but at the end, it may not be the way you want to do it or choose to do it based on your body mechanics or strengths and so on and so forth. So let's first look at this. I shoot the shotgun generally, for the most part, on semi-autos. You might feel that thump, that bolt lock to the rear. If you do, obviously, for that moment in time, you're going to know your gun is unloaded, so you try to get more ammunition in it. On a pump, what generally happens in reality, because you're not going to be able to sit there and count your rounds, because in the middle of the gunfight, you're counting your rounds and his rounds, and then pretty soon, you know, you're off. So what's normally going to happen is as you're engaging, you're going to get that dink of the trigger. Nothing happens. Once I get the gun into this position, what you're going to see me do is I'm going to reload off the shell carrier. We're going to try to play this as real as possible. And what I mean by that is usually whatever a person has in a shotgun is what they have in a shotgun. Most people don't wake up in the middle of the night and start throwing on all these little harnesses and dump pouches, and then you get your secondary on and all this crap and then start clearing your house. That generally doesn't happen. If you're using this, if you choose to use this for an emergency situation, whether it be self-defense or as a LEO, generally what you have on it and in it is what you take with you. So that's the way I'm going to play it. When Travis comes out here, he's going to show you some different formats in regards to if you are or if you had enough time to suit up with some different type of devices. Now, the classic that you'll generally see is you get the pump back here into this position. Most people will grab the shell. They'll start to index it in between these fingers right in here. They'll roll it up and in, and then if you're in this position, drive that pump forward. All right, so the important thing here is if I load underneath, I drive the pump forward. It's obviously a lot easier. My hand's in that position. Economy of motion, putting the pump back in a forward locking position is what your concern is at that point. Now, I like getting the gun into my workspace, and what I see that happens to a lot of shooters sometimes is, one, it is very difficult for me to sit here and hold this gun on target. So I like breaking the gun down because I don't have a lot of upper body muscles. So for me, the closer I get the gun into my workspace, this magical 16-inch bubble, the better off it is for me to start manipulating the gun. Now, that was under driving a pump forward. The next one that I'm going to cover, which is what I favor, it's what I choose to do. Again, for you, it may not be. I choose to drop it right where I can see it. I like grabbing the shell, cupping it, dropping it right over the ejection port. When I do that, gravity's working for me. Not only that, but if I have to move around somebody because I have another operator or I'm in that school situation, I got little ones coming out, I have my gun indexed up or oriented in an upward position so that I don't sweep people, because you can't combat reload and not sweep people if you have to place that body in motion. But I can get the gun into my workspace and do it at the same time if I need to maneuver, okay? So I'll come off my shell carrier. I'll get this round right here in between my fingers. I will drop. One other way to do it is if you don't feel comfortable in dropping, you can start making contact with the receiver, slide forward, it goes in, drive pump forward, and I come back out, okay? Now, let's cover really quickly, and I'm going to just give you my 2 cents, and remember my 2 cents on a totem pole of life is somewhere below whale shit on the way I work this pump, all right? Now, for me, I will take the shell off the shell carrier, I'll bring it up over, I'll drop it in, and for me, I drive it forward, okay? If I have to get my hand back on it and fire that one round, I will. Remember I told you earlier that if you come up underneath to drive forward, Well, at some point you might need to also go into doing a speed reload, which we will cover later on. If I'm back like this in this position, and I throw this one up and over, one of the other techniques that you can do is once you throw this shell in, is to do what? Come back up underneath, drive and shoulder. Anything wrong with that? Because before, I did it like this, and it may not be the way you want to do it. I came in, did this, drove forward, okay? And of course, I'll get it back up on the end of the gun. So there's kind of two different ways to throw that pump. One of the reasons why I do that is because of consistency. I know that if I have to combat reload, I'll drop, throw it, and cheek the gun, okay? So if I have to constantly do a few iterations of combat reload, my hand obviously has to go from throwing the pump forward to getting a good grip on it. However, what is one of the other functions that we do if we're not doing a combat reload or emergency reload with the shotgun? What's something else that I have to feed? The tube, right? The magazine tube right in here. So if I'm at the part where I need to feed the magazine tube, to me there's a little bit of economy of motion coming down to it, and also consistency. So what I will do is I will come in, I will drop, I will throw forward, and I will immediately start indexing more rounds. What I don't want to do for me is drop one in, drive the pump forward, then do this. All right, it's just a little bit of play on hand movement. That's all it is. And again, these are very subtle differences to how you will choose to operate the 12 gauge shotgun, okay? So on this next drill, I'm gonna go live. I'm gonna do it with my 870. And then what I'm gonna do from there is I'm gonna run a semi-auto and kind of show you how a M1 slightly differs between pump to auto. And then Travis is gonna come out and run an 1100 and demo not only doing a combat reload on another weapon system, of course that's already 3, he's also gonna do it from the belt in some other fashion. So eyes and ears. I'm gonna just start off on this drill with just one in a pipe. That's it. As soon as I fire, the gun's empty. I'm gonna cycle it a couple times though and get the dink of that trigger. Everybody understand? Why am I doing that? To take that gaming effect out of it, because I understand as an adult, you just load one in there, you fire one, you're just gonna wanna bring it back and not cycle it, okay? So get that one cycle in there, dink the trigger on that one, leave it to the rear combat reload. All right, so I'll do it a little slow. I'll come up, I get the click, I'll bring the gun back, come off the shell carrier, shove forward. Pretty simple, okay? Again, what you're going to want to do as you work your way through this is figure out what works best for you. Is it under for a combat reload? Is it over with an overhand, throwing the pump forward? Or what's the other way? Over the top and driving back forward, okay? So depending upon how your strength is, you might choose that one. But remember, for me, when I'm in this position and I throw it forward, I can immediately go into a speed reload. I don't want to actually come up underneath, throw it forward. So that's where it slightly differs. On the M1, first thing that generally will help you is getting a larger button. I run a stock button. This button is what releases the bolt forward, okay? So it locks to the rear. For me, I'm gonna come up over the top, drop one in, move my hand out of the way, hit the button, and then I would go into speed reload in a gun if I needed to. So for me, there's a button that I actually have to push. If the button's bigger, better for you, okay? Come up over the top, remove the shell, drive it back. All right, let's talk about shell carriers. Anybody see what happened under recoil? What happened to some of the shells? Some of them you'll lose. This is a reality based on the violence of the shotgun, okay? So as you are engaging, as you are shooting, make sure the devices that you put on your gun will hold your shells in there. There are ways to rig the gun based on having shells up or down. Usually when I'm not doing a demo, The way I rig my shotgun is I leave 2 up. Anybody know why I have 2 facing up? For what? For that combat reload. And I go on worst case scenario, so I at least put 2 of them up. The rest, I try to set myself up for success, hoping that there's a lull in a gunfight to allow me to do what? Feed the tube. So what you saw on some of those where my worst case scenario is I'm pulling them out, having to do a combat reload. Again, this is just for demonstration purposes for you guys. However, when I carry my shotgun, I split them. 2 for combat reload. This, when I pull it out, goes into the mag tube. A lot easier for me, okay? But just remember that, is it gonna be a little more complicated if you have to pull something out down, bring it up over the top? Sure it is. Now let me ask you guys this. What if you chose to go from this position to combat loading like this? Where would be the best spot for your first 2 shells? Facing up or facing down? At that point, it would be facing down. Now let me ask you this, one more question. Would they pretty much all be down since the magazine tube's there? Yeah, they probably would, okay? So this is where a lot of individual preferences change things. Any questions on the 870 or the Benelli? Because I know we have some Benelli guys out here. All right, one more thing before Travis comes out. For me, I gotta break the gun down just like I said. I'll come from this position. I'm not trying to keep it completely on my shoulder. If I need to, I'll break it, drop it, hit it, and drive back out. So if you don't want to do that or you don't need to do that, then don't. For me, I like to break it back into my workspace so I can see what's going on. Because what else could it be if the gun stops working? What's that, Ricky? Could be a malfunction. So I want to set myself up to rip it out if I need to recycle the gun if I need to. So those are some other considerations that I want to focus on as well. All right, Travis?
Leading off what Chris just talked about, personal preferences. There's a lot of them out there, and just like carbines and handguns, there's almost as much or probably more accessories for shotguns, just like in those other categories of weapons. Good point on shot shell carriers, like Chris just had that one. He had some, I think one might have fell out or something. These are really good. These elastic ones, they hold the shell tight, and you can switch them out if you need to. Obviously, I've got mine set up just like he does in the event that I need to do a combat load or feed my tube. Just be aware after time, sometimes elastic does wear out just like your underwear, okay? Change them out. Don't want to keep wearing the same skivvies. Now, working down the gun, talking about loading from different places. What, you don't like the skivvies? You don't wear skivvies? All right, talking about other accessories, working up and down the gun. I prefer to have a shot shell carrier on the side of my gun. You'll see some of these guys that run a 3-gun, they have them in this position as well. For me, this is a good thing because when I grab this gun, like Chris said earlier, this is what I have. This is all I have for a tactical type of situation. So for me, my priority is combat reloading. When this gun runs out of ammo, because there's not a lot of it, I've got to get it into the pipe as quickly as possible. So for me, I mount a shell carrier here, or you can use some of these other nice elastic versions, and you can just basically drop the round in, send the bolt home. So again, we're looking at efficiency and movement there. My hand didn't have to move very much. However, I am still rolling in this position. Because what do I need to do? I need to see what's going on in the gun. Just like that dry husk could be in there or causing a malfunction. Okay, if I get a dead trigger or that click. So again, shot shell carriers up on the forend area. Make sure they're durable, make sure they're good. Like I can actually use this one as a barricade press. If I need to get up on a piece of wood or on a door jamb or something, I could actually jam it in there and use it as assistance in a position shooting this shotgun. Now, loading from other places. Let's talk about that real quick. If you have the time and opportunity to put a shot carrier on, okay, obviously competitors do this, but if you're in a tactical situation and you can carry even 2 rounds on you and a little Velcro elastic thing on your belt or something like that, that is 2 more rounds that might just save your life or save somebody else's life out in society if that's what you have to do with that gun. So I always try to keep at least 2 rounds on me, or I have custom belts made that have 2 little elastic loops in them so I can wear them out and about. Or on your gun belts or a police officer's belt, you can put 2 rounds in there because, again, this does not carry a whole lot of ammo. So I kind of keep thinking outside the box of how I can load. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys on this 1100 specifically how to load from all these different places, okay? And talking about the roll, you saw Chris do the roll. Every time I do this load, combat load, it's going to be the same thing. Now, how you send the bolt back into battery on this particular auto gun is up to you. You can sweep it underneath, keeping your hand out of the way, just like you saw Chris grab up here and press his Benelli button, okay? Or you can drop that in, sweep under the bottom, and start your roll. Personal preference. I like to get my hand out of the way and sweep it because I don't want gravity working against me if I roll this thing really quick and that round all of a sudden goes popping out on the ground. Now I'm back to square one again and I lost something that could have been a lifesaver for me. All right, so again, I will drop that round in there, sweep it home, do that roll just like Chris did. I'll either come from down on the belt, or I'll come from over the top, or I'll come from somewhere else to start my speed load, which we'll cover here in a second, okay, for additional ammunition after that round goes back in the chamber. Or my hand is sweeping and going right back out on target. So I'm basically identifying a chamber, sweeping, driving home. Doing it again, sweeping, driving home. If I'm going somewhere else on a belt line, I'll do the same thing. Drop it in, sweep it, drive it home. So again, we're trying to minimize excessive or waste movement. That's all it is. So again, just thinking and setting yourself up for success with a shotgun. One more piece of gear, shell caddies. Shell caddies are really popular in 3-gun competitions, and they're also getting a little bit more popular. They've got some more slimmer line versions that law enforcement guys can wear on their belts and stuff if they don't have a patrol rifle and they're carrying a shotgun. This is more of a speed reload system. You can get a single round to drop in on a combat reload. However, just make sure your carrier will continue to hold the rest of those rounds in there if that's what you do use it for. Because I've seen a lot of shell carriers out there, you'll pull a round or two off, and next thing you know, these are bouncing around. Next thing you know, they start flopping out on the ground and you lost your source of ammo in a gunfight. Obviously not what we want. So I typically use my caddy as a speed reload device, not a combat load device. Okay, I'm just gonna run a couple live fire drills, just doing some different combat reloads from different areas, from the side caddy, from the saddle, and also from the shell holder down on my belt. All right, just like Chris did, I'm gonna just start off with one round in the pipe. All right, so that's 3 different loading positions there. All right, minimizing excessive waste movement if that's what you choose to do. We got a lot of different systems out here, so just keep in mind, if it's a new system for you, just slow it down and go slow, get the movements done correctly, and then you can start to build in speed once the consistency starts getting down, okay? Because we got to build that long-term potentiation right off the bat when you're doing a lot of different movements. And sometimes you have to do that if you're carrying a lot of ammo, especially these 3-gunners, they got ammo all over them. Sometimes they run 35-round drills or courses, and you're going to be doing a lot of loading, right? So you got to have good ammo management. So that's what we're talking about here. Any questions? All right, guys, well, let's do some combat reload drills. Let's go ahead and line it up on about the 10-yard line here. All right, here we go, guys. We're going to run a couple of combat reloads. So what I'd like you to do now is go ahead and set your guns up. Go ahead and take a single round out, drop it into the breech, send your action home, whether it's auto or pump. You're going to fire 1 round. You're going to cycle that pump if that's what you're running. Get that click, pull the breech home, open, drop a round in it, send it home, give me a 2nd round. That'll be the drill every time we call the execution command. Stand by. Good! Step up a little bit forward more. There you go. Like, don't keep your legs back like this, Lonnie. Try to go like this a little bit more. I know it's kind of tough, but there you go. Stand by. There you go. Ricky, see that minimizing excessive waste movement, especially in the competition world? Basically just want to break it here so the gun doesn't move, it drops in, but it seems like the muzzle's dipping down as you're going down here, and then you're trying to meet something that's moving.
I try to only load with this hand, which is my reaction hand, and keep my hand so if all of a sudden that guy comes back out, right at that point in which I got loaded, boom, gun goes off. I don't have to go, oh shit, gotta get my hand back and fire. So, he's got a gun! Sometimes it's tough to get those out of there, isn't it? That's just life with a shotgun, you know. The funny thing is that, you know, you need them tight to hold them for all that vibration, and then at the same time you want them loose so you can get them out, but it's a hard, happy medium. Exactly. Nice.
Anything get in your way? Sling get in your way twice, trying to get it up. So think about that as a gear issue in a time as life or in a competitive stage where you're trying to get that round in there just to get that extra microsecond on the clock. That may slow you down. So always think about that too.
Now, when you get that first click, leave it back. That's the only difference, okay? So when you fire, you're gonna fire, cycle it, click, but what you're doing is you're bringing it back, throwing it forward, clicking it again, and bringing it back. So just get that other step.
All right, shooters. Once you take the round out of the chamber, go ahead and safe and hang, muzzles down, and bring it on in here to the center. We'll talk about the next thing.
All right, guys, real good job. I want to cover a couple things in regards to playing it as it lies. Again, like I told you earlier, I always leave these two for combat reload and I leave these for speed reload. However, on that drill, a lot of people might have thought, well, hey, since we're just doing all combat reloads, take these shells and flip them over. If you are in a sustained gunfight, like worst case scenario, and you have to keep dropping shells in there, then for me, I'm gonna keep them in this fashion. Even though they're pre-set up for a speed reload, I'm gonna keep them in this fashion because there is a level of difficulty that I may face. So I try to keep as close to the reality that I may face as possible. Yes, I could take these rounds right here, flip them up just for a combat reload, and set myself up and be a lot faster. However, is that the way I carry my gun? And for me, I carry my gun just like this, 2 up and the rest down. These are combat reload, these are for speed. One other thing that I want to cover, and this was for a few different individuals. We try to keep our reaction hand, the non-firing hand, weapon hand, reaction hand. Reaction hand does things, it reloads, it clears malfunctions, it gets things, it moves people out of the way. My weapon hand has one mission that I want to try to do at all costs, and that is to keep my hand on fire control. So if something happens, I can pull that trigger as soon as I can get a round into that gun. So I only caution you if you're the type of shooter that goes from this position to grabbing a round out here, throwing it in, then hitting this, then coming back to fire control. I would much rather on this gun grab a round, hit it, and then come back up and leave my hand on fire control for as much as possible, okay?
If you're in a situation and you're doing combat reload, combat reload, combat reload, combat reload, probably something tactically is incorrect going on there or about to go on, or you are just in this Alamo situation and you're trying to fight your way out and you're just like, cover me, and that's all you can do to keep that gun running, for that guy to cover or whatever. But again, that's not what the point of this class is. Weapons manipulation first. That's why we concentrate on those things, bringing that reality into play. So if you ever do find yourself in that role and you're sitting there combat reloading, it might be time to take a lull and get this thing fed up so you can be a little more prepared. Think about where your hands are going. Think about where your body's going. A lot of jerky movements, a lot of boom like this stuff. You don't need to get too jerky, just boom. See that? See the difference in those two moves? So look at also these leverage points as well. I see a couple people struggling. They're bringing these guns down because they're a little bit heavy. All right, but I want to get this thing in there quickly, so I'm using my forearm right now. I can hold it up here for almost a long time, but not a whole long time. But if I just press it into my side, now I get twice the strength. So that little roll right there is what we're looking for. So that's typically the little golden nugget that people don't teach is the capture of the gun, so I can manipulate the gun now, manipulate the action. So think about your body working with the gun in efficiency. Think about your hand motions. Is it going a lot of different places, or is it right around the gun? Right around the gun, right around the gun. Those are little drills that you could probably do on your own, just dry practice and picking these things up and putting them in. But how close is your hand to the gun? That might mean seconds, and seconds is time. Time is life, we know that. Time is life out on the battlefield, and time is obviously critical in a competition world. So take efficiency into consideration here as you guys are starting to work these drills, especially when we start getting into speed loading. How much margin of error is there? You know, is there something you could take a microsecond off of? Well, time is life situation, a microsecond might just save your life. So think about those things. Okay guys, next thing we're gonna cover is speed reloads. We just got done doing some combat reloads. And some people kind of think that, well, speed reload is a combat reload. Well, we believe that's true in a carbine or a handgun situation, because you hear them determined as critical reloads, speed reloads, combat reloads. But in a shotgun, it's a little bit different because you're not inserting a magazine into the actual weapon. You're actually inserting individual magazines in, which is your actual cartridge that you're firing. So we consider that combat reload, that critical reload under stress, like we just talked about. If you're in that situation, whether you're on the competition range and the stress is high and you're trying to get that round in there as quick as possible, all the way up to in a combative situation or an active shooter where you're trying to get that round in there as fast as possible, combat reload, time is life. Now, the speed reload is somewhat of the tactical reload of the shotgun. Okay, it's getting the gun back up as quickly as possible, but it's not really a tactical reload because we want to do it as quickly as possible. This gun is out of ammo. I've combat reloaded it. I've sent the pump home, and now I'm rotating it in. The gun only has a round in the chamber, so we've got to get that magazine filled as quickly as possible, so that's what we're going to be doing here. A couple different ways to do it because there's different gear that you can load from. We take the standard pump like this with a shell caddy on it because this is all we have. So hopefully you're carrying some source of ammunition, specifically if you're in a life-saving type of job. I like to typically keep it on my shotgun because when I grab the gun, it's there. So when you go into loading this gun, we're going to start this drill pretty simple. You guys have just done the combat reload, so it's going to start with the pump to the rear or your action to the rear. What you're going to do is you're going to get that good combat reload, send it home so you get one more repetition in your lifetime of doing that combat reload. When you drive it in like this, you will feed from your particular source of ammo that you want, either off the side saddle. If you're a competitive guy and you want to go from the caddies or go from your shot shell holders on your belt, that is personal preference. Again, there's lots of ways to skin a cat with speed and combat loading a shotgun. So for here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up for the side saddle reload. So basically all I'm going to do is when it's in the workspace and I'm using the leverage of the arm and my stomach, I'm going to just grab the rounds, and now I can see what's going on here, but I can also see what's going on out there, right? So right now I'm focusing on you guys. If I need to, I can switch my focus back and forth, but I still have aerial awareness, okay, of my surroundings. So that's basically your side saddle hold shell caddy there. What's going to happen is once you get those 3 rounds in the gun, you're going to fire 4 rounds. Okay, makes sense? Because then you're going to go to what? You're going to go to bolt lock again, or you're going to get that click on a pump gun, and then we're going to do what from that point? Set ourselves back up for success, and then drill's over. Okay, so it's kind of a long drill, but we've got to get massive consistency at doing this because, again, we're not just taking a magazine, like a handgun magazine, inserting in the gun, and everything's fine and dandy from that point on. You have a lot of work to do. So this is where efficiency and consistency really comes into play, specifically when you get out in that reality situation. All right? So here's what the drill is going to look like again. All right, side saddle reload. Again, when we tell you guys to set this up, you're going to set it up with the action is open or locked to the rear, okay, if it's an auto gun. From the execution command, you're going to be at your combat loading position, using the elbow and the side of your body for leverage, standing right here. Now, you're going to drop that round in the chamber on the execution command, send the pump forward if you're running a pump. If you're running an auto, you're going to send your bolt home. From that point, you're going to roll the gun in, and you're going to go to your source of ammo. We're doing a side saddle reload here, so we're going to immediately start loading the tube. At this point, I'll punch out on the target and fire my 4 rounds. Okay, I get that click on a pump, action's coming right back to the rear, and then we're going to go right into that combat reload again. The drill is done at that point. All right, from that point on, we're going to set it up and do it again. We'll rack it out, put the slide back to the rear, and we'll set up our guns again. It'll take a little bit of time to get set up, but I want you guys to get that consistency from the get-go all the way down. I don't want you just working on just speed reloads or just combat reloads. We're now tying them both together because that's typically what happens with this gun. You have to tie them together because, like Chris said earlier, if you're not shooting, you're doing what? You're loading. All right, so that's a side saddle reload on the pump action shotguns. Any questions on that particular reload? All right, now let me try it with an auto gun. Again, drill's going to start the same. Your action's locked to the rear. I've got my side saddle set up. I could go from either one of my combat reload positions on the gun. I've got 2 in the up position, so that's what I'm going to use for because that's all we're running right now is a side saddle. All right, so here's what it's going to look like. Starting in that breakdown position, looking into your chamber, identifying that it's out, I'm going to go ahead and on the execution command and drop that combat reload in there. I'm going to send my action home any way I can, run the gun around, and start reloading the gun, keeping it in my workspace, driving out. Again, locks the rear, send the action back home. Any questions? We'll set it back up again, set your saddle up, and we'll run it a couple times. Okay, real quick on caddies. We're going to cover caddies real quick since a bunch of you guys are running caddies out here. Again, they're coming really popular in the 3-gun, and now law enforcement are starting to wear them a little bit. So kind of golden nuggets there for running a caddy. Generally, your caddy is kind of like if you were to run a handgun. I want that handgun mag in an area of easy ergonomics to get to. Okay, so basically my hand is reaching down as if I was to do an every morning man thing and reach down and grab a hold of something. It's kind of a natural motion to do that. We do it consistently all day long. I don't know if ladies do that, but I'm just throwing it out that you guys are used to reaching down and grabbing your belt line area. Generally, when you're reaching down for a caddy, what I like to do is keep an index finger, kind of index and middle finger right down the center of the caddy, so as I'm pulling these rounds up, they strip right off. Now, this is the hard part, setting yourself up for success. When they come up to the gun, you've got 4 objects in your hand. Some of these caddies, they have 6 shots out there. That's tough for me to grab a hold of all that stuff unless you got truck driver hands like Steve. But when this comes up to the gun, basically, for this my bolt's already home. I'm basically setting it in there, and it's on the thumb. Okay, this is where your thumb comes into play behind each and every round that you put up to the gun. So I've got control of them right now, but when I bring them up to the gun, that thumb's got to slide behind them and then start pumping them in. Okay, so it's all on the thumb. So get that thumb behind each round, shoot it forward. Get the thumb behind a round, shoot it forward. Okay, so if you're running a caddy, remember your thumb is a key to success there, getting that thing in there. Okay, if you get a good smooth tube like some of these competition guns and a good spring in there, you can sit there and speed run them about. Generally one shell per second is a good time frame to shoot for. So you should be able to get 8 shots loaded in there within 8 seconds. Okay, that's a general time frame. If you're running 2 caddies for typical IPSC type matches, you'll get 4, you'll load 1, 2, 3, 4, you get 4 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you typically run your stage at that point. So good goal to shoot from for there. All right, so here's how that drill will look if you're running a caddy. Gun's going to start in that same breakdown position where I'm looking in the chamber. Got good situational awareness looking through my gun. Going to combat load just like we did on the side shell caddy. Dropping that in, sending the action home, rolling it over, immediately sweeping down, getting a good index point, bringing it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, driving out, engaging, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, at that point the drill is done. And then we'll set you guys back up from there. All right, I'll do it one more time, a little bit faster speed. I'll try to get them in there as quick as I can. I don't have good working thumbs, so. All right, that's your shell caddy. If you're going off your belt, you're going off your belt. It's pretty much the same as a side saddle or anything else. Just pulling them out individually, loading them, but you got a lot of space here, a lot of movement. That's why I like to use either a side saddle or a caddy, because all of it's coming up in one motion instead of doing 4 motions, okay? So again, just an efficiency thing, a lot of different gear out there, so we like to cover all those pieces. Okay guys, so we're gonna do some drills now. Let's go ahead and line it up on the 10-yard line. All right, shooters, for this drill, this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna start from that breakdown position, looking over your barrel, out of the threat area. You got your actions are locked or pumped back to the rear. On the execution command, you're gonna take a round, combat reload it, send your action or pump forward. You will then rotate the gun and go into whatever way you need to reload. If you're running a side saddle, that's what you'll use. If you're running a caddy or a belt system, that's what you will use based on your lifestyle. What you're gonna do? You're gonna have that combat reload. You're gonna put 3 rounds into the chamber. If you're running a caddy, put your 4 rounds into the chamber. You will then fire 4 rounds. If you're running a caddy, you're gonna fire 5 rounds. So that way the action will be locked back to the rear again on the auto, or you'll have to pump it back to the rear once you get that click. And then you're stopping at that point. Now we have an open chamber. We're set up ready for the next drill. All right, here we go. Load it! All right, Steve, when you're running your thumb, doing that reload, make sure you're getting a good press forward. It's a deliberate, be over deliberate with that thumb when you're running that thing forward, especially on these Remington actions, because if you ever half stroke one in there?
Yeah, it's a real headache to clean.
Okay, so make sure your thumb has got to be very deliberate, all right?
Let's see the rain here, Neil.
Okay guys, here we go. Set them up again. Your action should be open. Go ahead and break them back down. Here we go. Load it!
Feed it, feed it!
Come on, 1, 2, he's getting up. 3, feed it.
Get it up, Neil! Work it!
All right, go ahead and unload, show clear, verify the chamber is safe. Keep your actions open, muzzles down, and bring it on into the center.
All right, guys. Real good job overall. I thought everyone did a nice job getting those combat reloads in there, feeding that tube. Couple things happen. A little bit of stress goes on. I was behind Neil, running him a little bit harder, and you bobble them. It is going to happen. Those rounds are this big that you're trying to shove into a small tube. Couple things that can help you. A lot of times, remember this: if the gun is parallel and you're trying to load parallel, your margin of error, if you're slightly off getting it into that magazine tube, what's going to end up happening? As you push, you're going to end up dumping it. That's one of the reasons why you see us roll it into our workspace. Remember that, you know, that competitive side and the tactical side, it's really important for me because the ammunition in that shotgun is so limited. There's not a lot of rounds. Okay, and the rounds that you put in there, it might only be a few, so you really need to get those things in. And unfortunately, whatever you have at that point is what you have. So just remember, when we roll and index that gun into our workspace, if I should lose that round slightly for a second, I have the side of the receiver that is going to trap that round in there. So the worst thing that happens is it slides down, I regrip and drive it back in. But if I flip it this way, gravity is going to take over and you're going to end up there's a higher probability that you're going to end up losing that. So just keep that in mind, okay? You can keep it up and feed it, or you can break it down and feed it, but chances are you probably won't lose as many rounds if you get a slight cant. How aggressive that cant is completely up to you. I just know for us, I'm not going to hold that thing horizontally, okay? Great job. Let's head in.
All right, guys, let's have a discussion on shotgun terminology and all the misconceptions out there with different types of loading techniques. Commonly, you'll hear the terms used cruiser safe and cruiser ready. Now, this is typically a law enforcement terminology, but it can be applied in a lot of different things. It could be used in hunting. It could be used in home defense. It could be used in military, like breaching. When I carry a breaching shotgun, we have shotguns slung on our sides at all times, so we can't actually have a round in the chamber. So we'll talk about cruiser safe and some different variations that you might see out there. Basically what it means, you're going to take this shotgun and put it in a cruiser. That's where the terminology came from. Now, if you're carrying in a cruiser safe configuration because your agency or department may say so, then what you would do is basically send your breech home once you verified that it's clear and safe. You're actually going to fire. This is one of the sequences, and then you would actually load the tube all the way up, ensuring the safety is on. And then you go ahead and put it in your car, into a gun rack, or some agencies keep their guns in their trunks, things like that. A lot of different situations. You may have it in your house. You don't want your kids to touch it or something like that, so you keep it in a safe configuration. So that way when you grab it, maybe somebody breaks in, an intruder, and you get that intimidation noise, okay? Sometimes that can be a factor if that's what you use for home defense. As a posturing device, get that rack, that's a form of posturing. That's a form of saying, hey, get the hell out of here, or you might be shot with a shotgun. And typically when people hear that, they're going to turn around and go the other way. However, the problem with that specific technique for me is when I send this home and I dry fire that gun and then I set it somewhere, say in the back of this trunk. Let's say I do put it in the back of this trunk here, cruiser safe, the safety's on, okay, and the trigger's been pulled. So basically what happens is when I pull this shotgun out of the trunk in a critical stress situation, basically the first thing I have to do is pump it. It's ready to go. Now, a lot of agencies will say that that's what you want to do because this little button right here that releases the slide mechanism of the pump is too much of a fine motor skill to do under critical stress. Well, let me throw out something here. If you cannot, as a lifesaver, as a person that protects and serves or puts foot to ass for your country, can't push this little button under critical stress, then you probably shouldn't be going into a gunfight where you've got to push a lot of other things, right? So I like to throw that out as there's a lot of things that you got to do with a shotgun. You're already seeing that. You're going to see it even more so when we start getting into slug changeovers here in a second. So for me, my cruiser safe is actually breech is forward, safety's on. It's locked. It's not going to come undone. Also, the fact is when I put this thing in the trunk of a car, which I see a lot of guys just throw their shotguns in trunks of the cars because they don't have fancy racks. This one really doesn't. So I'd probably build something if this was my vehicle. But I don't want this slide coming loose if that trigger's pulled in that traditional agency cruiser safe mode. Next thing I do, I pull this thing out and it's already like this. It's sitting in the car and there's a round floating around somewhere in your trunk now because of the vibration. Things can happen, right? So that's the last thing I want happening when I'm trying to go in to save a bunch of kids in a school or some other type of stress situation. So for me, personal preference, my cruiser safe is locked. Nothing in the chamber, pipe's fully loaded. So when I get out of the vehicle, I have to activate the slide release mechanism and then jack around in, and now I'm ready to go into the fight. The weapon's still on safe. So that's 2 variations of cruiser safe there. So we like to throw those misconceptions out about that. So keep in mind, if you're the guy or the gal that puts your shotgun in a trunk or in a situation where it might vibrate or something, I would probably recommend having it locked. If your agency says, hey, no, you have to carry it in a fired configuration, then make sure you've got it in a good mount to where your round's not going to be vibrating out of the chamber there. All right, obviously you can see pros and cons to both of those techniques, but just remember, if your agency or your home defense policy says, hey, you know, keep it in cruiser safe mode, I again would keep it locked forward. Because I honestly, this is why I will carry in a cruiser ready configuration with one in the pipe, because I don't care about posturing. I'm not a posturer. Like you heard Chris say earlier, if somebody ever comes into your house or you get into a shoot situation and you are employing a weapon system of any kind on a threat, that, yeah, in legal terms, you may be considered in a defense situation, but guess what? You're defending yourself as offensively as possible, because this gun is being employed as an offensive tool. No matter if I'm defending myself or my family or my teammates or whatever the case is, I am in an offensive mode. So bottom line is I don't use a pump to scare somebody. I use a pump to shoot somebody. Because again, that offensive, defensive configuration there has to be understood, what you're employing this weapon for. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, now, if I was to actually do this, I'll go ahead and set it up for you. This is what it'll look like. Again, I've verified that the weapon system is safe. My safety is on. Lock it forward. At this point, I'm going to then feed the tube. All right, now, this gun I know by verifying where that last round is completely full, ready to go. Now, if your agency or department says that you can carry in a cruiser ready mode, or you prefer to carry in a ready mode with one in the pipe, you now have one more round inside your system. So that's a added benefit of a cruiser ready. All right, with that cruiser ready, I'll show you guys. Basically what you're gonna do, you're gonna take your round, the action is open, just like that combat reload. I'm gonna send that slide or pump forward. I'm gonna rotate the gun on my workspace, and now start to load that pipe. Once that's all completely loaded and the gun is up, I'll verify that it's again on safe, and now it's ready to go in a rack, in the trunk, or wherever else, okay? So that's your different configurations. Again, it applies in a lot of different things you do. Maybe you're a hunter and you just don't like carrying around in a pipe. Obviously, hunters pretty much carry rounds in a pipe because they got to be ready to shoot that animal. So I just throw that out because I have seen some people that I have hunted with, they carry like that. But again, if you want to take that clean shot, you got to get that round in there fast and you might spook your animal. So again, I like to stay in a ready mode in case I did have to shoot that animal. I'm going to get that clean shot, I'm not going to spook him and try to shoot him on the move. Home defense, again, it is an offensive tool. I grab this when I know my life is in danger or somebody is presenting a lethal threat against me, my family, or somebody else in that house, and I'm going to defend that house offensively. So it is ready to go. Military, if you're a breacher or you carry a shotgun, typically I will carry it because I have to in a safe mode because it's hanging on my side. That's why I tend to like an automatic type of gun with a big safety, so I can run that gun hard and fast, flip that safety on and get out of the way. So again, that's where safeties and other types of configurations of weapons actually add value to that type of particular situation there. All right, those are your two configurations of, or many different types of configurations of cruiser safe and cruiser ready. Just make sure that it applies for you, your agency, policies, or whatever, but that may just mean the simple fact of finding a good mounting system in your vehicle or in your home or something like that to where your breech stays where it needs to stay, so when you grab that weapon, regardless of what your policy says, it's ready for that time in life situation. That's all that matters, okay? That's the bottom line. Now, if there's no questions on that, we're gonna start getting into basically the art of shotgun employment, talking about ammo management, okay? That's a very important key thing. So Chris is gonna come out here, he's gonna talk slug changeovers or different types of ammo changeovers that you may encounter in certain life situations and scenarios. All right.
All right, guys, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that information Travis gave us. We're gonna work some drills in a cruiser safe mode, but we're gonna do a slug changeover. Now, I truly believe that this is the lost art of the shotgun, meaning doing ammo, switching out ammo and changing it up when you need to, when the situation calls for it. Anybody can just take a fully loaded shotgun and shoot it. Obviously, we need to combat load it, we need to speed reload it, but the change the ammo, I think, is a really important feature on this gun. Now, the way we do it may not be the way you actually do it. It might be different. I can tell you that the way I was taught was one, it was maybe a little bit simpler, but a couple things. One, it wasted a round that you're already limited on in the gun. So one thing I want to try to do with the technique that I'm going to cover, which has been around for a long time, is actually save that ammo. I want to try to save as much ammo in the gun as possible because we're already running limited capacities. I mean, my gun has an extension tube on it, but a law enforcement officer's or a standard 870 is generally 4 plus 1 in a pipe or 5 plus 1 in a pipe, depending upon whether you're shooting 3-inch magnums or 2 3/4. So a couple different things. The way I was taught is I need to get a slug in here. So we already have it in that cruiser safe mode. I've got my slug on the left-hand side. Usually you break this and you start rolling it and you flip it and you flip it and you start shaking it. And you get it out of the gun, okay? That was the way I was taught. So one, I just lost 1 round on the gun. 2, I'm concentrating more on trying to shake and what I call surf that round out of the gun, because if you look at the curvature of that chamber area, that's exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to create this surf wave to get that shell out of the gun. The drawback to me is, one, I have to take my eyes off what's going on downrange, and a threat may move from one position to another, and I need to take that into consideration and see it, understand it, process it. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this round that I just got done kicking out. We're going to save it because we don't need to kick it out of the gun. What I'm going to do is, I'm here in this position, I decide immediately that I need to get a slug into the gun. I'm going to break the gun off my shoulder. At the same time, my finger comes to this button right here. I break it back. I break it back halfway. That's just enough to pull the bolt back in about a halfway position. I'm going to take my thumb, push forward, and reseat the rounds in the mag tube. I'm going to drop it back, combat load, and then I'm going to fire. So what I've basically done is kept everything in the tube that I needed to and added a slug to it. So I've actually increased my round count, vice decrease it by 1. Does that make sense? Okay. Now some people will tell you that, just like Travis had mentioned earlier, that the other way works good under gross motor skill. Well, here's the other thing. You can do fine and complex if you understand long-term potentiation, meaning you practice the right techniques over and over and over again. Remember, our goal is not to choose the easy way out. Our goal is not to train the lowest common denominator. If you're the lowest common denominator and you can't work your shit under stress, then again, you don't need to be running a gun. That's for damn sure. So the important thing here is some of the techniques might seem a little complicated, and at first they are a little complicated. But that's why we do them over and over, but we try to do them the right way so that we are teaching to a different standard, okay? We're not getting caught up in that institutional inertia. Well, this is the way I was taught, so that's the way I'm going to continue to do it. If there's a better way, we do it. Next year, we may do it differently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demo with the 870 real quick a slug changeover with 1 round slug changeover on a target. After I'm done with that, I'm going to grab the Benelli because it's handled slightly different. Any questions on changing over 1 slug in cruiser safe? If there are no questions, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do it with the Benelli. All right. I've got a fully loaded tube right now. The Benelli's a little bit different. This gun understands the difference between the trigger being pulled and the action just being pulled, which means that as I pull this back, nothing happens, okay? Which kind of makes a little bit of a benefit to this gun. So for me, when I come up here, I'll pull, hold back to the rear, grab a slug, drop it in and let it go and get back up on target. The great thing is I'm not feeding from the tube unless I hit this little silver button right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna demonstrate with the Benelli. So that's a cruiser safe, one slug with the Benelli and with the 870. I try to, unfortunately on this one, the way this action works, I come off fire control. I do have to come off fire control because I have to load with something. And I have to hold this back because this will not lock back to the rear unless it's unloaded. So this gun gets handled slightly different, but it does make up in different ways. If there are no questions, all right, let's come on out and practice it.
All right, shooters, here we go. You're in cruiser safe, fully loaded tube, nothing in the chamber. On the command of threat, you've realized that a threat has presented itself at distance. You're gonna get a slug in your gun without losing any ammunition. Change it up, fire one.
So when he says threat, just go at your pace. Half rack, press, all the way back, slug changeover, fire your shot.
Shooters, stand by. He's got a gun! Great job, Ricky.
All the way back.
Come on, Drake, feet. Get on.
There you go, forward. Good, now rack it. And go ahead and rack it. Now you're set up for the next shot. It's a complicated drill, but it really makes you understand your weapon system.
All right, shooters, same drill. Same drill.
There you go, nice.
Watch that. Put it in, put it in. Next one. Hustle, hustle.
Nice. So what happened there with that one round? Hold on for a sec. What happened there with that one round?
It slipped out of my hand.
Slipped out, right?
I just dropped it and kept going. I didn't want to.
It's okay. That's exactly what you do. Yeah. Good deal.
Okay, same thing. Pat, thumb it.
All the way back.
Put it, send it home, and fire. Good, good job, very good.
Stand by. Threat.
Nice job, Ricky. Real nice. Obviously, Ricky, you choose slightly modified technique based on your abilities, which is using your reaction hand to hold it back. You load with your right hand because obviously in the competitive world, you're dividing up your slugs on one side of your body and your double op buck on the other side of your body. So for you, you're doing it exactly the way you need to do it to accomplish your mission for the way in the style that you shoot. So great job.
Thank you.
Remember, break it down. You're getting a gun out of the car, guys. You're getting a gun out of the car, so break it down. There you let's go, fight. What are you doing? What are you doing? You got it. You follow through, Steve. Follow through, fire the shot, Steve. He's coming at you.
That was great. All right, let's do it again.
Set him up again.
You're grabbing the bolt, you're flipping, you're short stroking it home to get that ramp back down, lock it, slug in, boom. Okay, now get it out, now half stroke it. There you go, slug in, send it home, good.
Nice job, Delonda. Very nice.
All right.
So you just got to get that consistency down in steps. So slow it down, but you know how we go in deliberate steps, man. Go deliberate steps to get that consistency down, and then next thing you know, it'll start feeling a little bit better, because right now you're cognitively thinking about everything.
All right, guys, great job. As you can see, there's a little bit of, some complications, some manipulation going on there that makes things a little bit different than just doing something quick. All right, a little bit of thought that actually has to go into it. Now what we're gonna look at is cruiser safe, but putting 2 slugs in the gun. One school of thought is download your gun. Download your gun by 1, do exactly what I just did the first time, and then just feed 1 into the tube. I find that this is a non-reality, meaning that most people just fully top their gun off. Most people don't leave space to possibly put in a secondary slug, mainly because at that point, if they decide not to go to a secondary slug, they have a gun down by 1. And if you're running something that has 5 rounds, that can severely affect you. So what I do is we work on worst case scenarios when things go wrong. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on getting that second slug in there. First thing that we're gonna do is from this position, I'm gonna break the gun down the same way, hit my breaker bar, chamber, bring it back halfway so now I can see half the casing. Seat, kick that one out, combat load 1 in there, and then I'm gonna grab my next slug and feed it into the tube. So in a sense, I've only lost 1. I've only lost 1 round in there. So it's pretty simple, as you can see, not a lot of moving parts. I just have to chamber that one because when we're running on cruiser safe, I have an empty chamber. So I'm actually putting one in the chamber, then blowing the bolt carrier group back just halfway so I can seat that other one in the magazine tube and then continue on from there. Any questions? All right, guys, I'm putting the gun in this configuration right now because I got out of the car. I see I need to take a long distance critical shot. Any questions with the 870? All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move on to the Benelli. As you saw earlier, the Benelli works slightly different. When I pull back and start working the action, it doesn't chamber one. So I can always get one in there really quickly, but if I have a fully loaded tube, I need to clear that one out of the tube. This little silver button on the M1s and on the M4s specifically, which is your most common ones that you end up seeing out there. What it does is as soon as you hit this button right here, it takes out one from the tube and puts it on a feed tray. At that point, it allows that round to go into the chamber. So what I'm gonna do in this next action from here is I'm gonna hit the button with my trigger finger, just put the round on a feed tray. I'm gonna pull back once, just chamber, pull back again and hold. Bring this one up over, let it go. Roll this over, feed the tube, and then I'm up. So the only difference with this is I have to, on this particular one, when I do 2 slugs, I have to actually hit this silver button to put one on the feed tray. So what we're looking at is cruiser safe, empty chamber, fully loaded tube, getting 2 slugs. Now, let me ask you guys this. Why would we have a need to possibly shoot 2? Vice 1, because a second ago we just got done doing 1. Why?
Threat's not neutralized.
Threat's not neutralized, or we're setting ourselves up for what?
Follow-up shot.
Follow-up shot.
Success.
So if we can and we have that time and opportunity, we're setting ourselves up for that follow-up shot. Now what you're seeing also is, for those running Mossbergs, it behaves slightly different, which means you have to surf that one out, okay? So again, with the shotgun, there are so many varieties of shotgun. Some of them you have to treat differently than others.
For you law enforcement guys, think about it like this. Maybe you guys get a high-speed chase call and you're a blockade type of situation. You pull your shotgun out and you got out buck in it and he's coming your way quickly. I'm gonna get 2 slugs in that thing as quick as possible. So if I gotta dump that driver because he's presenting a lethal threat with his vehicle, that might be a good opportunity to put 2 slugs in the gun. Obviously it's gonna have more of effect and be more accurate in getting 1 slug in the windshield instead of having out buck fly past the car, possibly hitting cruisers behind them or something like that. So there's so many different ways and situations and uses for this technique. So that's the great thing about these drills, getting us more confident so we can make these hard movements, these cognitive movements that you guys are really concentrating on right now, into an unconscious thought. So one day when that shit hits the fan and you are proficient at this, that gun is coming out and you are not even thinking about it, all right? Everybody ready? All right, let's do it.
Here we go, cruiser safe, 2 slugs. Stand by. Gun! Get it up, Chase, feed it, feed it, feed it. Lost control a little bit, fix it, Jason, fix it. Look at your problem, look at your problem. There you go, feed it, feed it.
When you let go with that hand right there, I was like, oh. You do the same technique that I do, which is you pull back with this hand and it just went a little wry on you. Your brain actually now has to go flip the silver switch, pull back 1, okay, nothing happened, chamber the next one, pull back and hold back. Because all that's happening right now is you're pulling back and letting go and you're like, ah, shit, I just need to pull it back, hold it, and go. And that's why, obviously, this gun or any gun, you really have to think about this stuff. So, all right, let me see you get it right this time.
Bust them. 1, 2, there you go, great. Feed it, feed it, feed it, outstanding.
So basically all you gotta do is kick that round off the ramp, slug in, shoot, shoot. Slug in, set home, slug in the tube. Give me two, Utah. Come on, safety off, give me two. There you go.
This is what you're doing motion-wise, okay?
So, right, I got you.
So the first one is chamber in one. Chamber, now put it back halfway.
Yep.
Seat,
Yep.
kick it out.
Don't care
That
about
one's
it.
gone. Yep. Combat, boom, that one's in. Perfect, right there. Now, you see what you just did? You pulled this one to go under, just pull that.
Oh,
Just
right,
pull this
gotcha.
one to go right in here.
Gotcha.
What I do is, when I carry my shotgun tactically, these are either set up for combat reload, up and over, and then these are all set up for speed.
Gotcha.
So, all right, we'll go live with that.
Shooters, stand by. Busted.
Perfect, halfway back, seat it with your thumb, there you go.
Feed the tube.
There you go. Perfect. A lot of moving parts there, isn't it? Trying to get two in there.
Sure.
But what you're doing is you're also conserving ammunition. That's the benefit to it, because especially for you, you're only running, what's this tube hold? Three. So you can't afford to lose 2 rounds. It's best to just lose 1 round. And that's all you're losing right now is 1 double-aught buck.
Sure.
Good job. Hey Jenkins, what's gonna happen now on you with that gun, you're gonna have to cycle one out, cycle one in. So now you gotta get 2 in there. So what we're gonna do from here is, we're gonna go here, here, here. See that other one on there? Flip it. And then what you're gonna do is combat, and then feed one here, okay? The Mossberg works slightly different, which is why we end up having a surface. So on some guns, we treat it like this, and on other guns, the thing about shotguns is it's not like an AR-15 where a magazine goes in, you pull charging handle to the rear, and then you shoot. It's every manufacturer of firearms changes the way these guns behave.
All right, guys, safe and hang. Line is cold.
All right, so we just got done running Cruiser Safe, which is a fully loaded tube, empty chamber. Putting 1 slug in, obviously, for those running either 870s or Benellis, we're not losing any rounds. For those running Mossbergs, you're gonna end up losing that round, unfortunately. In regards to running 2 slugs, any questions with that? We have to lose 1. Most of us are at least losing only 1 round out of our gun to get 2 slugs in. A lot of moving parts, isn't there? And it's just like Travis said earlier, we're trying to really understand our weapon and get it into and try to choose the most efficient movements possible. But it's a rehearsal. You know, right now we're trying to simplify that file cabinet. I've got a file cabinet with 1 drawer, not 3 drawers. I've got not multiple folders in there, but 1 folder. When I open up that folder, it contains 1 piece of paper, not 15 pieces of paper with a staple and, you know, front and back on it. It's got 1 sheet of paper there that contains the key to my survival, everything that I need. That's how simplified I need things to be. And unfortunately, like we said earlier, the shotgun is the most violent weapon system, but it's the most complicated when you truly work it for what it's used for, which is different loadouts, okay? Being able to configure it quickly for different missions very fast.
You guys starting to see the complications coming out, why this thing is really so complicated, all right? And that's why we take so much pride in trying to manipulate this thing. I mean, you got guys who've been out here doing it a long time, and they're even bumbling a little bit because it's truly complicated. So hopefully everybody sees that and realizes that long-term potentiation has to start if this is the weapon system that we ever have to choose one day in case somebody's life is in jeopardy, or if you just want to go faster on a competition range. This is where it comes down to, is weapons manipulation.
All right, guys, what we're gonna do is we're gonna head back and we're gonna start working Cruiser ready now. 1 slug and 2 slug. All right, let's go. All right, guys, now what we're gonna look at is we just got done doing Cruiser Safe. Bottom line is whenever we're thinking about Cruiser Safe, we're looking at empty chamber and fully loaded tube. Now what we're looking at is worst case scenario, 1 in a pipe, fully loaded tube. So now what we gotta do is we gotta create room without trying to dump all the rounds out of our shotgun. So what I'm gonna do here is it's the same principle applies. I break the gun off my shoulder, I bring this back. I only need to get 1 slug in here, so I'm gonna take the 1 double-aught buck out, reseat, that round goes out, put in a new one, drive it forward, and fire. So that one's pretty simple. So again, what I have here is I have 1 in a pipe, and the mag's full. Now I need to get 2 slugs in. All that's gonna happen is from here, I'm gonna bring the gun up, break this one back halfway, seat, lock, forward, feed the tube. So on this particular one, I'm going to have to lose 2 rounds instead of 3. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna demonstrate 2. Any questions with the Remington 870? All right, now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna move on, do the demonstration with the Benelli. I have one in the pipe, fully loaded tube. So to just get one in there, pretty simple with the Benelli. I pull back, hold to the rear, reach over, let it go, fire. Pretty simple. So the Benelli is a pretty simple system. You get 2 rounds in the Benelli. From here, bring the gun up, hit the silver button, cycle 1 out, 1 in. 1 out, hold it to the rear, drop my slug in, feed 1. Any questions?
All right, guys, here we go. Range is hot. Gas them up. Load and make ready. Full load in the gun. 1 in the pipe, fully loaded tube. That's cruiser ready. All right, shooters, 1 slug in the pipe. That's what we need to do. We need to get that round out of the chamber, not lose any more ammunition. If you're running a Remington or a Benelli, get a slug in there. Shooters, stand by. Bust! Oh, hold it back, Ricky.
Flip it, hold, good. A lot easier, isn't it?
Much easier.
Yeah.
Bust!
All right, so for viewers at home that have a Mossberg, what are you having to do, Jenkins?
Once exec 1,
Roll it.
roll it,
Roll
surf
it.
out. Exec my slug.
Boom. So unfortunately, because you're running this particular gun, you end up having to lose 2. So great job. Set it up.
Shooters, stand by. Threat! There you go, nice. Give me 1, give me 1. Very nice.
I was thinking about beating Jason.
What happened? Smooth, nice and smooth.
Good!
Get it up.
Ah, fix it! Fix it!
That was right on the mark. All right, Jason. Ricky's down there trying to beat you. Here we go.
He's fine.
Don't let the stress get to you, man.
Shooters, stand by. 2 slugs.
Oh.
He's got a gun.
All right, guys. Range is cold.
Oh.
Okay, guys, that kind of wraps up day 1 of shotgun employment. Obviously, a lot of things thrown at you. We covered everything from zeroing, we covered patterns, we covered stance and grip, combat reloads, speed reloads, slug changeovers, cruiser safe and cruiser ready. Okay, a lot of different things going on there, a lot of different mechanics. Hopefully you guys can truly see the complications with a shotgun. It is seriously, like Chris said, a forgotten art. And if you don't use it every single day like some of these guys do, it's a tough gun. It is truly a complicated gun. So we bring all these things on the table, throw them out at you, and like we keep saying, there's a lot of ways to skin this cat, to use this shotgun. There's different actions, different uses. So again, we're trying to cover a lot of different guns and a lot of different gear out there, and it's hard to really do that in 3 days. There's so many different platforms. There's platforms out here we don't even know about that run completely different than what you guys have, that we haven't even covered. So again, taking into consideration your lifestyle and what you use, very important. Okay, very important to understand those complications, because those complications that you guys are finding out here on the range is a failure point. And until we can get past that and be an unconscious movement, then that's what we're looking for. We want that to be another ordinary problem to deal with, so we can cognitively think about the rest of the world around us, whether it's the threat or whether it's the stage in your mind on a competition in a game, because you've got a lot of things to think about outside of just this weapon. So we need to get this down again in order to be more effective out there.
Yeah, overall guys, real good job. A lot of moving body parts. Your hands are moving in a lot of weird ways. We're on fire control 1 minute, we're off fire control. We're using our thumb here, blowing the action back here. You might be going under, you might be going over, speed reloading. There's a combination of a lot of things that are actually happening. Overall, I thought you guys did a really good job. For me, for my simplicity, I like the shotgun. It's hard to teach as an instructor, for any instructor come out here to teach, because there are so many different brands of shotgun, and within those brands, they all behave slightly differently. Jenkins, you got a Mossberg. So some of the techniques that we were showing, both you guys and the viewers, can't be done on a Mossberg. You have to surf that out. So unfortunately, it's a round count issue. So when I go to choose a piece of gear, I try to choose a piece of gear that I can manipulate with the least amount of movement as possible, so that I can focus on.
All right guys, here we are back day 2. We've already covered the medical and safety brief. We're gonna start really ramping it up and getting into a little bit more shotgun manipulation on the move. You're gonna start seeing a lot more things come out today. Yesterday was a real fundamental day. But now we're going to continue to work those fundamentals, continue to be efficient at them, and consistent at whatever you guys found that really worked for you with your particular weapon systems that you have, and incorporate it throughout the rest of the day and then tomorrow. So we're going to keep it rolling. It's going to get more exciting. It's going to get a little faster. So keep your wheels spinning and keep it smooth, because smooth is fast, because that's what it basically comes down to with this weapon system, because there is a lot of moving parts to it.
Yeah, just like Travis said, fundamentally, yesterday with some of the different techniques in regards to slug changeovers, very important whether you're running cruiser safe, cruiser ready. Your brain has to think at a moment's notice, how do I most efficiently switch loadouts to get certain rounds on target for distance shots? That's the versatility of the platform. We don't utilize the platform anymore generally in that kind of configuration. We just kind of load it up with one type of ammo source, but it is really a multi-purpose weapon, and that's what we want to get out of it. That's why today we're going to continue to work those slug changeover drills, whether we're fully loaded or not. A lot of times, you know, people can set your guns up, leaving a space in that tube like we talked about yesterday as an option. I can leave that space in the tube to get a slug in there and start changing out my loadout. The reality is most people go out with a loaded gun, fully loaded, or they start off with a fully loaded tube. So the last thing I want to do is download and now only have 3 in a stock 870. So those are different considerations that we need to think about. But again, if that's the way it applies for you and that's the way you want to do it, anything wrong with that? No, that's your choice. That's your individual choice. So what we're trying to do, at least for me or Travis, based on our experience, most of the time it was always a fully loaded gun, either with the tube or completely loaded, meaning one in a pipe as well. So that's where the complication always came in for switching out ammunition.
Well, it's your lifestyle. If that's what you're going to be out there doing, protecting and serving specifically, then that's your decision that you seriously have to make. Is that going to be effective? Are you going to be effective with that tube downloaded? Well, then that's a decision you make. But me, Chris, I know for a fact that that's a liability as far as I'm concerned, because you're not using your weapon system to its full potential. You are not being the master of your weapon system. So again, like we've been showing you guys out here, this manipulation is key. If you can get these things down unconscious, then why wouldn't you use them? Because you're working the machine. Just like that NASCAR driver gets in his car, do you think he just drives it? I guarantee he could probably take the engine apart too on it. All those guys are super experienced. You look at bicycle riders like Lance Armstrong. Do you think he knows how to build a bike? I guarantee it. He's not just a rider. So what I'm saying basically is just don't be an operator to your weapon system, be its master. And that's why we dive deeper into the mechanics of the gun.
All right, as Travis gets set up for this drill, this next volley is going to start at the 5-yard line. I'm going to have you, since some of you guys are running a little bit longer tubes, load to 6. Give me 6 rounds. I'm going to give you a round count. So I'll say something like shooters, 3 rounds on this drill, stand by, threat. You'll engage, search and assess. Remember, looking for additional threats, head on a swivel, break that focus that you are going to have under a body alarm reaction. Then from there, feed your tube accordingly. Now, if I call the command to threat again and I say, give me 3, then what does that mean? Wherever you're at is where you're at, which means you might need to retain rounds, you might end up dropping rounds, play it as it lies as if an additional threat has come out. Just keep in mind when your gun's starting to run low, hey, you might have to do a combat reload. If I call 3 more, then guess what you're stuck with? You're stuck with doing a few more combat reloads until you can get that tube topped off. So again, this is pushing you a little bit to start really running that gun and understanding where you're at. So I'm gonna demo it with Travis right now. You'll see what we need to do. All right, shooter. 3 rounds, 3 rounds. Stand by. Bust him. Stand by. 3 rounds. Gun! Using his opportunity. 2 rounds. Gun! Search and assess. He's gonna feed it as fast as he can. He's feeding. Shooter, 3 rounds. Gun! 2 rounds, threat! Any questions? All right, if there are no questions, let's line it up.
Range is hot. Load and make ready, properly, gas them up. Shooters, 2 rounds, stand by. Gun! Feed them, feed them, feed them. You're either shooting them or feeding them. 3 rounds, gun!
Okay, give me one more combat reload, and now I want you to feed the tube.
You're only giving me my count, so if you're still firing, you're probably wrong.
Feed the tube. Go ahead and feed it all the way up at your pace. Don't worry about Chris, just feed it at your pace. Now you're set up for a little bit longer duration.
Shooters, 2 rounds, threat!
Try to get a good hand placement on the forend, man, because you're grabbing here, you grab up here. Every time you're doing a combat reload, you grab back in the back, and you did another one, you grabbed up front. So I just want you to recognize that in case you're not recognizing it yourself.
Shooters, let's load up. Nice job. All right, get some double out buck. We'll meet you guys on the 15, please.
Now we're at the 15-yard line. We're gonna work Travis. I had him download a little bit because this is gonna probably start happening to you right now. Shooter, 3 rounds. Stand by.
Gun! Threat! Threat!
When you have an opportunity, feed that tube.
2 rounds, gun!
Any questions? All right, come on out to the 15, please.
Shooters, stand by, 3 rounds. Threat! Go! Beat it, Chase!
Gun! Come on, Steve, get it in.
All right, now load. Speed load, speed reload, speed reload.
Shooters, 2 rounds, gun! 2 rounds, threat!
Come on, Steve, get it in the hole!
2 rounds, gun!
Come on, get it up, get it up!
Fix it, Neil, fix it!
I need 2 rounds, I need 2 rounds! Come on, tube it!
Bring your breach back!
Combat reload, Steve, get it in!
All right, now you got a combat.
Speed it.
Put that one in there, then feed the tube. Good job, Neil.
Good job, Steve.
3 rounds, stand by! Threat!
So for this one, you're gonna fire, you're gonna get a click, you're gonna pull it to the rear, you're gonna feed the breech, send it home, and then I want you to load 4 in the tube, no matter what he says. Nice. Give me 2 shots. Give me 2 shots.
All right. Now feed your tube. Feed your tube. Feed your tube.
Good job. Now feed your tube.
Great job.
Line's cold. All right, let's head back. 25-yard line.
All right, guys, now we're back at the 25, working in some distance. Really, for most of the average guns right now, pushing the limits of double aught buck. We'll push past this, go to slugs at the 50, all right? So same drill, same drill. You're gonna see Travis, I'm just gonna run him a little bit harder this time.
Shooter, stand by. 4 rounds. Gun! Threat! Four rounds. Bust him!
All right, good job. Any questions on the drill, guys? All right, we're gonna transfer over to Travis because anybody notice him do anything different on that volley?
I rolled the gun over right for a speed reload. Now, we haven't shown that yet, have we? Well, there's a reason why. The reason we want you guys loading up here, whether it's from your side saddle, from your caddy, from your belt, whatever the case may be, is a tactical awareness. We want you to be aware of your surroundings. We don't want you looking down. However, in some competitions, when I'm running a lot of rounds on me, I will do a rollover technique. And this does really work because of speed and efficiency, because everything's right here, and I've got a good trap on the stock, because that's the key to this one, is trapping that stock. You can sit here and have this thing moving all around and you're not being efficient. So make sure when you roll this gun over, stock's trapped, and it's just simple hand movements. But look where my eyes are right now. It's not where I want to be in any type of tactical situation. So just think about that if your lifestyle dictates that you need to be more tactically aware. Competitors, they can get away with this. So again, a very good fast technique for competitors. Basically driving the gun in, trapping it, feed, 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 grabbing the forearm as you're driving back out, back on target. So it is a fast technique. I just want to show it because we haven't gone over it, but again, if you guys are competitors and you want to try that a couple times, awesome. If you're in that tactical position or lifestyle, then we would prefer you to stay up on target, okay? Any questions, guys? All right, let's get online. Let's try this drill.
2 rounds. 2 rounds. Stand by. Bust him.
Now, if you have ammo in your pocket, then I would start feeding this, just in case maybe it was hasty. You grabbed a bunch of ammo out of your car, threw it in your pocket. Any chance, I'm gonna start feeding this, because this is what feeds the gun.
2 rounds. Bust. Front. Feed it. Give me one. He's getting up. Give me one. Nice.
As soon as you feel it hit the ramp, thumb.
2 rounds.
Ramp, thumb. Feed your tube, not your shot. See, if you'd fed your tube last time, that wouldn't have happened. Feed the tube.
Yep, you're right.
2 rounds. Front.
All right, here we go, guys. This is the next drill that we're gonna do. What we're specifically looking for is 1 slug and 2 slug changeovers. We're at distance, we're at 50 yards. It's not prudent right now to take this kind of shot with double aught buck. Too risky, okay? So what we're trying to do is also save ammo. We have a fully loaded gun. So we got out, whether we're patrol, cycled that gun, we have 1 in a pipe, we fed the tube, trying to run in with a fully loaded gun. Now we actually have to take a long shot. So we're gonna do 1 slug, then we're gonna do 2 slug. I'll run Travis. All right, shooter, 1 slug.
Shooter, stand by. Threat.
Job. Don't forget, search and assess when you're done. Next drill, now you still have double aught buck in there, right? So now what I need to do is I need to clear out that double aught buck, and I need to make space in the tube. So what we're gonna do just to simulate this is Travis is gonna use a double aught buck and feed the tube so it's fully loaded, all right? That way it's fully loaded. Here, you can borrow mine. All right, so now he's got a fully loaded gun. This is our start point again. Bad day, gun's full of double aught buck. We gotta get 2 slugs in there, clear the 1 out of the chamber, make room in the magazine as well.
Shooter, stand by. Bust him.
And search and assess. Any questions? Those running Remingtons, what are we gonna do? A little bit of handwork going on in there, right? The Mossberg, we're having a flip with that particular system. Any questions? All right, let's line it up.
Okay guys, here we go. We're gonna run the slug changeover drills, doing 1 and 2 slugs. Make sure that you have your aught buck on you because we wanna keep your tube full. So every time you run a drill, if I call out single slug changeover, you're gonna do your single slug changeover, you're gonna fire that slug, but then I want you to top off that tube with aught buck. So you're ready for the next drill, because that's what we're doing is we're making space inside the tube for if we do a double changeover, okay? So keep filling that tube up. Any questions? All right guys, let's get it on. All right, single slug changeover, single slug changeover. Let's get it good. Send it back up, feed the tubes. Set your combat sources back up. All right, here we go, guys. Single slug changeover again. Good!
Good job, Neil.
Get your hits, don't be so fidgety.
So obviously on the Mossberg, you gotta do what?
Take the one out and flip the one from the shell or from the tube out as well.
Now, when we do 2, what's the benefit to this right now?
It'll be quick.
It'll already be quick because you already are getting rid of 2. Yeah. So the only drawback is you're losing ammunition if you have to go from 1, or even in a cruiser safe with an empty chamber. As soon as you break that pump back, you have to lose 1 all the time. Yeah. Right now, because your cruiser ready, you have to lose 2. So that's the only drawback. But if you got to go to put 2 in here, you might as well.
Yeah.
For me with this gun, what I would do, my brain would just go, you know what? If I'm gonna rack that action back and lose 2 rounds, I'll combat load 1 slug, and if I can, feed another one. Because that's just the way that gun operates. I might as well keep it as loaded as possible.
All right, here we go. Double slug changeovers. Double slug changeover. Stand by. Good! Surf it, surf it, surf it. Go, man. Let it go, let it go. Ah, don't be so fidgety, man. Cycle it forward.
Circle half back. Lock.
Feed those 2. I'll tell you what you did wrong after.
That's all right, those big old truck driver hands just getting in the way, man. So you're being too hard and too deliberate, so slow it down a little bit.
Now, let me have your gun for a sec. I'm just gonna load a couple rounds. This is what happened right here. When you were here in this position, you did a good job. You did this and then seated. When this is what you needed to do, watch the action that I do. Get that one out, next one in, this one halfway out, seat it, then that one clears. So all you gotta do is cycle it 1 more time and then you're good.
Your surf, pull it back and try to toss it over all the way. Try to get it all the way over. Up! Surf it good. In, let it go. Feed it, feed it, feed it, feed it. Be smooth, be smooth, be smooth.
Way to stick with it.
God! All right, guys, let's talk about transitions. All right, first thing we're going to cover is some is a method of using a sling. Slings are getting a little bit more popular with shotguns. This obviously is if it applies for your lifestyle, your job. Military guys typically will carry a sling if they're on a roadblock position for a long period of time, or if you're law enforcement and that's just what you happen to use. Even competitors are using some slings nowadays, things like that. So we'll talk and cover the transition with a sling, and then we'll go into some variations without a sling, since I think still the majority of people with a shotgun don't use a sling typically. All right, so for the first one, basically what's going to happen is after we do our administrative load on our handguns, because we'll be using handguns for this obviously, you're going to have this gun set up with 2 rounds in it for this drill. You're going to have a round in the pipe and you're going to have a round in the tube. So on the threat command, what's going to happen is you're going to engage. Obviously I have an auto gun right now, so I'm going to know when this thing locks to the rear. When I attempt to fire and nothing happens, I'm going to transition the gun. Now transitioning the shotgun, basically I'm just laying it right down in front. We're not throwing it out of the way. Okay, just like our carbine techniques, it's the same thing. You're laying it down. At that point, it is just a pile of metal and polymer or wood. Okay, it doesn't do you any good to be throwing it around and trying to get it into other places, because when you start moving and running in a situation, it's probably going to end up right back here in the front. Okay, so no point in wasting, excessive waste or movement. Once you lay this gun down, the hand is going straight to the handgun. You're driving the handgun straight out, and you'll engage with 2 to 3 rounds for me on the target. Once you engage with 2 to 3 rounds, come back into the high compressed ready position, search and assess, and at this point I'll start to grab the shotgun and holster the handgun and bring it up. Guess what's going to happen? If I'm running an auto gun, what am I going to see? Okay, this kind of looks familiar to our carbine. I see an open bolt, so I'm probably going to grab for that combat reload source, drop it in, send my bolt home, and we're going to feed the tube with 1. So again, we've got 2 rounds in the weapon system. We're set up for the next transition drill. Okay, if you got a pump, that pump is going to come to the rear. Same thing. Combat load it, send the pump home, feed 1 of the tube. Any questions on transitioning? All right, I'll just demo it really quick. Search and assess, and then you're set up for the next drill again. Okay, if you're running a sling. Now, any questions on sling methods? Okay, let's talk about some techniques if you do not have a sling. If you don't have a sling, which is pretty typical, specifically law enforcement guys are grabbing them out of racks or grabbing them out of trunks, and that they're running with what they have. So basically, there's a couple different techniques. Depends, it's kind of a personal preference of where you have the most control of the gun. I'll talk about a few of them here. Basically, the first one is if this gun runs dry, we're going to do a high tuck position, okay? Where basically it's just easy and ergonomically for me to bring the gun straight into here, hold onto the gun, and transition the handgun out and engage with the handgun. And then move and then work with the tactical scenario at that point or competitive scenario at that point if that's what it calls for. Okay, so again, it's just a tuck. So I'll run through that one really quick. High compress ready, bring it back, boom, I've got my combat reload source, feed the tube, search and assess, and I'm set up for the next drill. Any questions on that one? Okay, that's the high tuck. Now, the next one is just kind of as if you had a sling, but we really don't. So since we don't have a sling, we've got to maintain control of the gun. So again, basically I'm just kind of laying it down, keeping the muzzle in a safe direction, transitioning, driving the handgun out on target, engaging 2, coming back up, doing my combat reload and such, and going from there. And that's the low muzzle safe kind of transition without a sling technique, for a lack of better terms. Okay, any questions on that one? Next technique, this is pretty much what I prefer because of tactical readiness, is a breakdown. Okay, it's kind of a butt tuck. Okay, for again a lack of better terms. So basically what I'm going to be doing here is when I engage with this weapon system, I will drive the gun out and take the butt of the gun and tuck it back underneath my reaction arm. All right, now why would I want to do this? What's a good reason I could do this?
Make use of the weapons mounted light.
Sure, if I've got a weapons mounted light on here, which I do, at nighttime I can run this light with that handgun out, because obviously I don't have a light on my handgun. So I can't really have a handheld in this position with my reaction hand, so I've got one on my weapon system that I can still use. So at nighttime, this is a good technique to use if you have to transition with your shotgun. Again, it is a butt tuck. You're taking the butt of the weapon system and just throwing it underneath the reaction arm and using your elbow to capture the gun. I've got complete control. I'm not holding the weight. I've got a good symmetric center line of the weapon system here underneath my arm, and I can pretty much maneuver anywhere I need to go like this. If I need to be safe, I can just drop it down real quick. Okay? All right, let me go ahead and demonstrate that one really quick. That's pretty much the tuck method underneath the reaction arm. Okay guys, just a recap on those 4 positions. Again, we've got the sling transition where you're just letting go of the weapon system, 2 hands on the handgun. That's optimal for me because I always like to have 2 hands on my handgun if I can get it. If you don't have a sling, you've got the reaction hand muzzle up technique. Okay, you've got the reaction hand muzzle down technique. And then, what's the last one? The butt tuck technique. Okay, so we're gonna run through those. However, now I think the sling is pretty spoken for. Okay, since some of you guys have slings and some of you don't, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come out here, again, 1 in the tube, 1 in the pipe is how we'll set the guns up. We will take our slings off because I think it's pretty easy for us to transition with a sling on, drop the gun and pull a handgun out. So we're gonna try the harder ways, just in case one day you don't have a sling on your gun. So you're gonna be doing first the muzzle up, reaction hand, muzzle down, reaction hand, and then the reaction under the arm butt tuck technique. Got it? Any questions, guys? All right, let's go ahead and get on this line right here and we'll try it out. All right, we're in a cruiser ready configuration, 1 in the pipe, 1 in the tube. We are gonna fire your 2 rounds. You will then go into the reaction hand muzzle up technique. All right, here we go. Stand by. Got it. Now, once you get the guns back up, you should be combat reloading and putting 1 in the tube, and then the drill is over. All right, same drill, here we go. Good. Get them back up, combat reload, 1 and 2. Good job, Sarge.
I went low.
So you're gonna come back to the high compress ready, and holster, and combat reload. Send the pump home, 1 in the tube. Good job. Now you're ready for the next one. Okay guys, here we go. We're gonna be doing the reaction hand muzzle down. Again, once you fire your handgun, holster that thing, combat load, then speed load, tube with 1, so you're ready for the next drill. Stand by. Got it! Good job, guys. All right, one more time. Muzzle down, reaction hand. One more time. Woo! That's fast and smooth, Jason. Don't let the speed get to you, though. All right, here we go. Butt tucks. Tuck in the weapon system under your reaction arm. Make sure you get a good tuck on it. Stand by. Gun! Combat load it. Speed load it. Good job. Let's do it again. Stand by. Gun! All right, and safe and hang, safe and hang. Safe and hang. All right guys, let's get into some positions. We're gonna start out with kneeling, real simple. Basically just keeping it really efficient and really dynamic. I'll show you my technique that I use. It's basically the same as any long gun technique that we use, whether it's a carbine or shotgun. So we'll discuss that. If I have to get into this position, basically I'm just gonna drop my weight out from underneath me. I don't need to take a step, do I? Because if I take a step, I consider that excessive or waste movement. So instead of stepping forward, okay, or stepping backwards, basically all I really need to do is squat straight down until one knee hits the deck. So did I minimize excessive or waste movement in that situation? Absolutely, right? So basically, I'm just squatting and keep driving that knee down. My upper body now, my upper body is still driving into the gun as I drop down. If you are in a low ready position and you're driving the gun up and dropping the kneeling, as soon as your knee hits, you should be ready to fire. So your dot should be coming up on target as you're dropping into the kneeling position. When you get back up, it's quicker to move from this position than if you settle in to a kneeling like this. Okay, it is actually quicker. Now, some people ask, well, which knee do I put down? Well, it depends on the situation, obviously. If I'm in a barricade situation, I'm shooting past the right side of a barricade, which leg do you guys think I'd put down? So I'd put down my right knee, right? Why is that? Why would I not want to put this knee down? Because when I lean out, look what happens, my leg leans out with me. So if I can plant that leg, this is my imaginary line, I don't ever want to go across that threshold with my legs. My body can't because the gun's got to get out there, but I have this curvature now to where I keep a little bit more minimized profile behind the cover. So that situational dependent, but for right now, for flat range work on this, we're going to drop straight down. Any questions? All right, so for this drill, we're going to basically run about 4 rounds. We're going to give a threat command. You're going to drop into the position, you'll fire your 4 rounds, you'll search and assess and stand on your own. Now, as we get going with this, you may hear a couple more threat commands called. Okay, so maybe threat commands as you're still getting back up. You may have to fight your way back up from the kneeling, so just play it as it lies. All right, here we go. Search and assess and stand, okay? Now we may have you fire a couple shots in a kneeling and a couple shots in a standing, or vice versa. So I'll do a variation here. So I'm just showing that variation, which we'll throw at you here, where you're gonna have to feed the tube. You're gonna have to combat reload during these drills. We want you to be thinking as you're getting up and down. So now we're throwing another cognitive element at you that you're gonna have to be aware of. Okay, something that might not be an unconscious effort. So you're gonna have to work through that going up and down. All right, is there any questions on that technique? If you have bad knees or something, then bear with it. I've had both of my surgeries on my knees already, so my knees are pretty bad, but I'm going to train the way I'll drop down. Yes, it hurts a little bit for me, but hey, I'm gonna carry a gun, I'm protecting and serving, or I take that oath in life to protect and serve my family, my teammates, my society, my put foot to ass for my country. I'm gonna train the way I'm gonna fight when I'm in that situation that I took that oath for. So that's just my personal opinion. Now, if you do need to step back a little bit, find that perfect happy medium, which works for you, which may some people have really, really bad knees, but you just got to find that perfect technique for you, okay, guys? But minimize accessory waist movement, that's the key to this. So you can get the gun on target. All right, let's go ahead and get out here on the line, and we'll try some of these repetitions.
Range is hot, gas them up.
All right, guys, dynamic kneeling. Here we go. We're going to run through some drills. We're going to do it real simple here a couple times. I want you to drop into the dynamic kneeling and give me 2 shots. Search and assess, come on back up. Search and assess again, and then do what you need to do to get your gun back into a good, ready position. If you ain't shooting, you're loading. Here we go. Stand by. Yeah! Search and assess, stand. Stand back up.
Break that gun down to line and feed that tube when you can.
I'd rather you guys feed the tube once you've stood and searched and assessed. Let's try it again. Here we go. Yeah! Search and assess, stand, and then speed reload. All right, here we go. 2 shots standing, 2 shots kneeling. Ah!
There you go, feed it, Jason, feed it.
Stand, feed it. Feed it, feed it, feed it, feed it.
Same drill, gun, gun! Combat reload if you need to, feed it. Solve your problems.
Gun, gun, gun! Get up quick. Not much ammo on the gun. Not much ammo on the gun.
I just want to check something. Bring that back. Your chamber empty. You need to start cycling it after. You did that on the last round. All right, you stood up, went click, and then cycled it. Chamber that sucker. Or combat reload it. That's what's going on, Redmond, is you're dinking that trigger, and then you're just feeding a tube. Combat reload that when that trigger goes dead.
2 shots kneeling, 2 shots standing, 2 shots kneeling. Here we go. Get out!
There you go, Steve. Go!
And safe and hang, safe and hang. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get set back up for dynamic prone.
All right, guys. Travis just covered, obviously, dynamic kneeling. Now we're going to talk about dynamic prone. The way I was taught many years ago, prone on a shotgun, I'll tell you what, it is not a fun thing to do. And just remember this, obviously, if you get in a shootout and if you have to lower your body position completely flat to the ground and work this gun, and I'm going to demo on a semi-auto first, and then I'm going to demo on a pump, which is even worse. If you go with more of a traditional prone, which is obviously this gun breaks off your shoulder and you go straight down, reaction hand hits, and you drop flat. First thing some people teach in certain schools is actually get down, get this gun up, and it's on your collarbone. You're absorbing a lot of recoil right now on your collarbone. So when this gun goes off, especially if for some reason you're running slugs, then it's a lot of pain there. Now, that pain obviously isn't going to compare to getting shot. So suck it up if you have to. However, if there's a way for me to manipulate my gun and control recoil at the same time, then I would rather choose that. One of the better things to do is digging your gun in and shooting over the top, meaning if you notice the difference, this position, I'm up on my collarbone here trying to support. Now, if I have a pump, how can I work that pump? Very difficult. You have to come up off, which means now you're going to expose yourself, cycle the pump, then come back down. So in this case from here, what I do is I put my chest on top. The gun's going to come back on me, but this breaks down to what I covered yesterday with technique. Remember that push-pull technique that I said has been around for a long time? That's when you're really going to be utilizing this, because you're going to use a lot of wrist control, chest control right here, and putting the stock. I'm going to break this down a little bit. When I hit the ground during this technique, I try to bring the stock straight into the ground and dig it in as hard as I can. And then my body, my chest lays on top of this gun. That way I can absorb the recoil and control it a lot better. Now, with that said, obviously we try to dig it into the ground, but if you're on concrete, what you're going to find is you can't dig much of the gun into concrete. That's going to be pretty much of a losing battle. So if we had a choice, and we are able to, and we can, what we're going to do is find a happy medium between regular prone and urban prone. All right. Now, one of the things that I like about urban prone is generally I can still get a good purchase on my chest up in here, not on my collarbone or not on my arm. So what we're going to do here, from this position, the gun always gets broken off the shoulder. Reaction hand comes down, hits the ground, I kick out, I bring the gun and tuck it in right here. So what I've done is I've come in, shoulder the gun, boom, boom, boom. Even if I have a pump right now, I can work the pump. What do you got to be careful about here? Anybody know? The ejection port, okay? And not only the ejection port, but the type of charging handle you're using, okay? Because if you get really flat, or the threat is getting further away, or he's underneath a vehicle or something, and you dropped up underneath a vehicle to get some shots off, to bounce some double-aught buck off the ground and maybe sweep them underneath the deck, you're gonna be careful of your charging handle on semi-autos. So if you're running a big fatty latch, you could actually cause a malfunction. Now, if a malfunction is caused down on the ground, you have decisions to make very fast. That is, can you clear it down on the ground, or do you need to hurry up, get up, clear it from a better position, and probably move as well, all right? So those are some other things that you need to think about. What I'm gonna ask you guys to do, since I know it's a lot easier to basically just drop, have a slight roll, and then actually get this thing in here. I'm more concerned about you running a gun. I want you in a low position, but I want you to be able to run your gun really quickly. I want you to be able to manipulate that pump fast if that is all you have out on the street is a pump shotgun. So that's important as well. Semi-auto, great. Okay, easy day for that guy, but somebody running a true pump is gonna have a much harder time if you're in straight prone, getting that action back and getting those rounds off in a quickly and timely manner. Any questions about this? Get him back up. Get up as fast as you took you to get down. But remember that when I get down, a couple things on going prone. Are you concerned about the guy that you're addressing at that point? Do you think I'm as concerned about that guy? I see that guy, right? I see him. I drop prone for a position of advantage. So before I get up, what do you think I'm doing? Searching the deck really quickly, see if there's any more threats. I come up to a knee, what do you think I'm doing? I'm assessing the next level because the playing field's changing at that moment in time. When I stand up, next thing you know, I see that a threat actually went prone. I'm not as concerned about the guy I'm addressing, I'm concerned about the people that I don't see, all right? Those are the people that bother me the most. The guy that I see, I'm gonna deal with, all right? I'm gonna hopefully take care and neutralize him. So just keep that in mind as we are getting up to continue to search and assess on all those levels. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run it with this, and then I'm gonna run it with the pump. All right guys, that was a semi-auto. Now I'm gonna do it with the pump. It's gonna be slightly different obviously because I have to work that action constantly. All right, also you'll notice that down on the ground, I ended up doing a combat reload and then I ended up doing a speed reload as well. When I rolled the gun, I just put the nose of the barrel right there as long as I know I'm not going to impede the muzzle or obstruct it in any way. I might as well use everything to my advantage so I can basically just drop a shell in and go. Bottom line is, whatever works for you at this point because of the awkwardness of that position. Everybody good? All right, I'll run it with a pump. All right guys, that was with the pump. Obviously a little bit slower working that action. I had short stroked the pump on one of them and then pressed on from there. So any questions? All right.
All right, shooters, load and make ready. Shooters, 2 rounds. 2 rounds, dynamic prone, stand by. He's got a gun. Finger up the trigger. Gun back up. Feed it, feed it, feed it. Here we go, get it ready. Stand by. Get out, get out, get out!
Good job, guys. Loading it up, loading it up. You're speed loading. You ain't shooting, you're loading. You're not shooting, you're loading.
All right, next round. 2 standing, 2 kneeling, 2 prone. Stand by. Bust them.
Good job, Steve. Good job, Steve. Give me prone, give me prone.
Good job, guys. Feed those guns. Good job, guys. Feed those guns. Feed those guns as soon as you can. Feed them. Shooter, stand by.
Same drill, same drill.
Gun.
Give me 2 more to prone.
Hurry up, Steve. Hurry up. Feed it. back up, get back up. Top it off if you need to. Top it off if you need to.
Get it back up, load it.
All right, here we go, guys. Let's go 4, 4, and 4. Dynamic prone, kneeling, standing. Shooters, stand by. Bust them. Here we go, Jenkins. Nice, good combat reload.
Feed it 2.
Beat it, Jenkins.
Give me 2 more.
Come on, Sarge. That guy's getting back up. That guy's gonna kill somebody. Get him. Give me 3 rounds on him. Give me 4. Give me 7. Stop, Sarge. Combat reload. Combat reload. You sure have more ammo?
Remember, when you get down that prone, pop them legs out too, especially since you're a sniper now, man. You want to be able to drop into that position and them legs are set, because those are your little bipod stabilizers back there with any weapon system that you grab, especially a sniper rifle.
All right, guys. Range is called.
All right, guys, we're going to get into some movement now. What we're going to do is we're going to jump right into a little bit more dynamic movement, because we know as human beings in general, we can all take a step to the left or right or forward or rear, right? We know we can all do this. Like old doctrine says, take a big giant step to the left or right. Well, is that something you're probably going to do in a gunfight or even in a competition? No, you're probably going to be moving really quick, right? So that's what we're going to be incorporating here. Real simple movements with a long gun, moving left, moving right, moving forward, moving rear. Now, some people say, how many steps do I take to do this? Depends on you, okay? For me, generally, it's just an explosion. And this explosion is kind of like a flinch type of reaction, but I identify a threat, my mind processes and says, hey, get offline, boom, I'm just moving that much. And generally, it's only as much as until my sights come up on target, okay, for me. So again, I'm only moving until the sights are up, and that's when I'm planning and getting ready to engage. Okay, same thing moving back, boom. Now again, remember your legs might be a little offset here. Is this how I would normally shoot? Do I normally step up to the line like this? But don't let your legs blade your upper body, especially on this shotgun. Keep your upper body driven towards the target. Engage, and then set your feet back up, get ready for the next drill. Okay, any questions on that? All right, Chris and I are gonna run through it real quick. Simple forward, or left, right, forward, rear.
Left. Right. Forward. Rear.
This isn't a moving while shooting, okay? This isn't a step, step, step and shoot. This isn't a move and shoot, shoot, shoot and stop. It is an explosion to stop. Okay, so we're just exploding our bodies. All right, now, what's gonna happen is the tempo is gonna ramp up a little bit. So what's gonna happen is Drake now is gonna start calling a little bit quicker. Since shotguns have limited capacity of ammo, obviously we may find ourselves moving and having to do combat reloads. Trying to feed the tube at the same time. It may get a little hectic, but that's the point of the drill. All right, so now Drake's gonna call us full speed.
Shooters ready. Stand by.
Left. Right. Forward. Rear.
Keep calling it, Drake.
Left. Right. Forward. Rear. I'm out.
Just drive all the way through until your gun's either up, or if you run completely out like Chris did, go to your handgun for this drill, just for consistency's sake. Obviously, in reality, you get a click or something wrong with this shotgun and you're in a close quarter situation, you deem that you are good at your skill level to take a handgun shot, you're gonna pull your handgun. But for this, we wanna work in that consistency of mental and physical repetition here. Get in your mind, trying to process and see. This is where the mental side of the house starts to come in for us to see in you and for you to see in yourself. Are you doing this unconsciously all of a sudden? Have we been working on this long enough for the last 2 days for you to start dropping rounds when they need to, thinking and moving when you need to? Because you may find a time where we grab you and move you because cognitively you're thinking about getting this gun up, but somebody just called left, right, forward, or rear. Next thing you know, you're standing there, and now we got people moving with loaded guns. So this is where the mental aspect comes into play. Any questions on offline of attack? All right, let's come on out here and try it. All right, guys, here we go, offline of attack. Be thinking, be on your toes, here we go. Stand by. Right! You're not shooting, you're loading. You're not shooting, you're loading. You're not shooting, you're loading. This is where your mind's got to start thinking. When it gets faster, it's going to get mind-boggling. Left! Left!
Good job, Tommy. Way to feed it. Search and assess, looking around for more people.
Feed it, feed it, feed it. Feed it, feed it, feed it. You fix your feet, get your feet set to move again if you have to, if your feet are all jacked up. Forward, forward! Steve, don't run. Don't run. I know you're an aggressive giant ogre. You want to destroy the target like Hulk. Just explode into a stance.
He'd make the Hulk look like a pussy.
He would. He's even got a green shirt on. Rear! Rear! Get that efficient, dynamic movement down. It should be one explosion, not 3 little ones. Forward! Forward! Rear! Rear! Right! 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 Come on, load it! Load it! Get it up! Get it up! Left! 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 Come on, combat load it, Neil. Combat load it. Get it in. Get it up. Combat load it. Put something in the tube. Put something in the tube. You're just going to sit there and combat load all day. Right, right, right. Combat load. Combat load, put one in the tube. At least one. Left, left, left. Okay, guys. Safe and hang for me. Safe and hang.
Safe and hang, guys. Good job.
Okay, guys, second relay. Do just exactly what the first relay just did. We'll be speeding it up as we get going here. Go ahead and load and make ready if you need to. Okay, here we go. Stand by. Forward, forward, forward. Rear, rear, rear.
Drive that bead. Drive that bead.
Right, right, right. Here we go. Left, left, left. Good job. All right, guys, here we go. Keep it loaded. We're going to keep it moving faster. Be on your toes. Think. Listen to the direction and process the information. Forward, forward, forward. Rear, rear, rear. Right, right, right. Come on, get it in, Jason, get it in. Left, left, left.
Good job, Redmond.
Forward, forward, forward. Rear, rear, rear.
Nice, real nice.
All right, safe and hang, safe and hang. Good job, guys.
That was a really good job, man. You had some really good combat reloads. I know you had some shells in your hand, so you're having to work the pump and trying to feed those. At one time, you protected that one shell. I know you were trying to get it in the actual tube, and then you fired, which was your priority, and you still retained it and then slid your thumb back in there. So that was a really good job, man. It's good movement. All right, guys, we just got done doing offline of attack. Now what we're gonna do is shooting and moving forward and to the rear. Couple things. Remember when I demoed some different techniques in regards to shouldering a gun, I said that controlling the weapon comes from where? Lower body or upper body? Upper body, which means that your lower body is going to be doing different things, which is, in this case, it's going to be moving. So controlling a gun is going to come from your upper body. Now, the first iteration that we're going to do, you are going to fire on our threat command. We will give you time to say moving.
Moving!
At which time you have to wait for our permission. We'll tell you to move. You'll start moving towards the target. Now, I'm not looking through my optic, I'm looking over my gun as if I'm coming either through my house or I'm in a law enforcement role where I'm looking over my gun, I'm searching for things, and then something happens, and that word will be the command of threat or gun. At that point, you'll bring your gun up, fire 2 rounds. Bring the gun back down. The tendency is going to be to just stay on the gun and keep the gun parallel. We want you to break that habit. If you neutralize that threat, get off the gun and look for more people to smoke at that point. All right, so this is a purpose-built drill, and that is for you to get on the gun, get off the gun, get on the gun, get off the gun. Also, your head needs to be on a swivel. We don't just move in straight lines. We move depending upon the flow of either rooms or the layout or the way things are going on or whether you're maneuvering around a car, so we just don't walk in straight lines. Point being is that we have to take in information, we take in information with our eyes. Now, that'll be the first iteration. We'll go forward, we'll go to the rear. Then, after you guys do that, we'll do a sustained shoot all the way to the threat. So we're gonna press the threat this time, which means that you'll say moving. We'll give you permission to move. At that point, on the first threat command, you will fire all the way down to the target. Now, depending upon how you are and what loadout you have in your gun, is also going to determine what you might be doing on the way down and the way back, which means you might be combat loading. You might be stuck in a combat load position. When you get to the end, you'll stop. At that point, that's when you can top your gun off. But you might have to start loading on the move as well. So that is all up to you. Now, a lot of people would say, hey, why don't you transition to your pistols? I'm more concerned, we are more concerned right now that you understand the manipulation part of this thing, meaning that this becomes your priority right now. If obviously in real life you have a need to transition in your handgun, then do so. This is about having a little bit of dynamic stress put on you, worrying about moving, watching where other people are at, looking behind you, getting your gun up, engaging, wondering what condition, feeding your tube, combat reload, a lot of stuff going on, like we talked about earlier. The only thing we don't have in this case is a clown and a midget, all right, because it was just short notice. All right, what we're gonna look at right now is our movement towards the threat. What I want you guys to think about is a cat sneaking up on target. If you watch Travis, think about a cat lowering the center of profile. He's sneaking, he's starting to stalk. He's stalking it right now, and then he presses it, all right? Cat gets the animal, lowering your center of gravity. Now, here's the thing. I know that there are some schools of thought that kind of teach more or less, think about heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe. The last thing you're gonna think about is what the hell your feet are doing. They're gonna be moving. That's all you need to know. Your feet are gonna be moving. What I'm more concerned about is the business end of this gun, what it is doing. When your sight's on the target, pull the trigger. When your sight's off the target, get it back down on the target, mitigate as much recoil as you can, and drive that gun. That's what I need you concentrating on. Now, we know that we have to lower our center of gravity so that we can be successful, but I don't want to concentrate on it, if you understand what I mean. So just lower your center of gravity, think like a cat, move like a cat, pounce like a cat, but shoot.
Those are your golden nuggets. Be sneaky like a cat, and the only reason we use that terminology is because of the isolation that it automatically happens in your legs. That's why their heads don't move. That's what we're doing. We're isolating the muscles in the legs naturally by just sneaking up like a cat. The other golden nuggets is if you are not shooting, you're doing what? Assessing. Okay, we're assessing the threat. If you're not shooting, you're looking. Bottom line is you will not be stuck through your tube walking down range. If you are shooting, that's fine. Drop the gun. Your chin should clear all the way over the stock. Looking, threat. Drive the gun back up, engage, lower the gun, looking around. All right.
Now we're gonna demo it.
Moving! Move! Threat! Threat! Threat!
All right, now what we're gonna do is gonna throw a twist in, we're gonna move backwards. We didn't talk about it because it's easier than moving forward because you're on the balls of your feet. So you're not trying to pause step, you're actually on the balls, so your dots or your front side will actually stay smoother. It's gonna be the same exact thing in reverse.
Call it! Moving! Move! Threat! Threat! Threat!
That's it, guys. Any questions moving forward or moving rear on command shooting? Okay, if you guys are ready to try it, let's come on up. All right, here we go. I'm gonna say call it, you're gonna say moving. You will not move until I give you the command move. Once you move, you're searching and assessing over your stock, and then you will get a threat command. You will fire 2 rounds on a threat command, and then you'll search and assess again and wait for the next threat command. Okay, everybody tracking? All right, let's try it. Stay online, use your peripheral vision to stay together. If you are by yourself, something's probably wrong. If somebody is next to you out in front of you, something is probably wrong. So if everybody should be equalizing here. All right, here we go. Call it. Moving. Move. Threat. Threat. Oh, keep feeding it, keep feeding it, keep feeding it. All right, we're gonna do the same thing, moving in reverse. If you're in doubt of where you're stepping, don't fire and look, okay? Take a quick second to look, it's okay. Rather you look, be safe. Again, the reality of you actually taking multiple shots, moving backwards for many yards is probably unrealistic. But why we're doing this is because you're getting lots of repetition moving backwards in one simple drill. So staying on the balls of your feet, keeping the dot where you need to be, using your peripheral vision, moving backwards. Call it. Move! Threat! Keep it moving, guys. Keep it moving. I didn't say stop. Threat! Keep moving. Do not stop moving. Keep shooting and keep moving. Threat! And hold. And call it. Move! Threat! 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 Load it up, load it up, load it up! All right, moving backwards. And call it! Moving! Move! Threat! Threat! Walk normally, Delonte, don't take side steps. Threat! Keep moving, keep moving. Keep moving. Threat! And hold, hold, hold. Okay, guys, now we're going to do a sustained rate of fire, moving all the way to the target and then coming all the way back. Chris, now I'll go ahead and demo it.
Shooters, call it. Moving! Threat! Call it.
Moving!
Move! Threat!
Woo! All right, guys, any questions on moving forward or moving rear and sustained rate of fire? All right, let's line it up. Let's try it. Okay, guys, here we go. Continuous fire all the way down to the threat. Continue to move and do your combat reloads or your speed reloads on the move. Don't stop. Okay, here we go. Call it.
Moving!
Move. Moving in reverse. Call it. Move. Walk, kneel, walk. Don't step. Don't back step. Walk. And hold, 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 hold. All right, good job, guys. All right, gas it up. We're going to try it again. Call it.
Moving!
Move. Threat! Good job.
Speed reload it when you can after you combat load it. So feed in that tube.
You know what's funny, Ricky?
What's that?
You actually yelling loading is slowing you down.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm serious. 'Cause that's what I see on the battlefield is a lot of guys will yell red, red, or they'll yell loading, and next thing you know, they're trying to get everybody's attention and let them know, and they should be just loading. Okay, so we've actually stopped doing that in tactics because it confuses the rest of the battlefield, because if I hear somebody go, loading, I look over and go, oh, I don't need to be looking at him right now. So that's just a golden nugget I throw out at you.
Good.
Take it for what it's worth, but that's...
Thank you.
Call it. Move. God! Keep it moving, keep moving. And hold. Drake, don't stop, bud. Go. Woo!
All right, guys, day 3. What we're looking at now is actually starting to throw you guys into some scenarios. For the competitive side of the house, we've got a scenario set up for you guys. For our law enforcement, we have a variety of scenarios set up for you as well. Most important thing is however you react. This is going to be based on your SOP, the way you handle things. We're just kind of starting off a little bit of the meat and potatoes, and then how you deal with it on the weapon side is how you need to handle it and focus it. Some might include slug changeovers, some might not. So these are the decisions that you guys are going to need to make on the fly.
Well, that's what we care about, the weapons manipulation side. We're not, again, like Chris just said, interested in the SOPs. You guys are going to do you, okay? You go out there, we're going to put you in these scenarios and you act as you normally would in your lifestyle. However, we're going to be watching you very carefully when it comes to the weapons manipulation, and as you're putting those core fundamentals in that we've been doing for the last 3 days, that's what we want to see come out under these. Some of them may be stressful situations, some of them be competitive situations, and then we'll be doing some other things where we're doing some educational scenario lessons. So again, we're concentrating on weapons manipulation for this.
Guys ready? All right, we got a long day, let's go.
Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
All right, nice job, nice shooting. Let me ask you, how did you load your gun on this particular drill?
Well, we were simulating a vehicle takedown, so I was the cover with the long gun. The rest team was supposed to move in, so I had 2 slugs loaded first.
So we saw these two rounds went in. One round went through, actually deflected. We know that obviously any time we have a projectile in the air and something comes in between us and the threat, that's a medium and things can happen. So actually one of the slugs went and deflected back here to the rear. The other slug hit right here in the neck, so good. Your second shot was obviously a lethal shot, and then the rest of that double lock buck pattern is in the threat, all over the threat, so that definitely would have stopped them. And this is obviously safety glass because of accident, so it's supposed to spider, which can cause an effect to the rounds. Really good pattern here, and some of the follow-up shots might have went through existing holes, and at that point there's no medium in between the round and the threat. So, and in this case, we know that rounds are coming in here and they're starting to elongate, heading up, and that obviously starts changing. Instead of having these rounds come straight through direct, they start to elevate slightly high. A lot of pellets going through that window really fast. Let's take a look at your hits here. Kind of again backing up what we had already talked about. Most of those rounds are, there's that second slug. That second slug's there, so most of those rounds ended up going slightly high into the chest because you had a really good angle on the car when it came at you. Well, let me ask you this. Is this a realistic scenario for law enforcement, meaning specifically, you know, we're pulling this car at you and stuff like that. We're looking at the ballistic effect that's happening on the windshield to the threat, but is this something that law enforcement faces? And if yes, then what would those scenarios be?
Absolutely. Just about any application, motor vehicles are generally involved in law enforcement. So it could be as taking a car down, making a traffic stop, a person in the car come out with a gun, or the person actually using the car as a weapon to try to run over officers.
Well, really good shooting. You got this guy within the first few seconds. So having a shotgun in this case actually paid off really well, and the way you loaded it paid off really well.
It would be much more effective than a handgun.
Yes, definitely, because with one pull of the trigger, you've got 9 rounds in the air. So I thought you did a great job, man. Awesome, good shooting. Let's go get something to drink.
Where's your first aid kit?
It's right there.
Oh my God.
My leg's bad. My leg's bad. Oh.
You'll be okay.
Oh.
It's all right. Where's your radio?
Oh, it's right here. Get code 3, Ned started. I got it.
Code 3, officer down. We need help.
All right, guys, end scenario. Good job. All right, stand on up, guys. Even though you're shot, Drake.
I'm good.
That's good acting there, buddy. This is sweet. Good job, Delonda.
Thank you.
So what did you think about that?
It was intense.
Yeah.
I could see how under a stressful situation, you need training.
Yeah, it took you a couple rounds to get him. I think you hit him once, didn't knock him down. So you probably got some on him initially, and then it looked like a couple of follow-up shots got him for you.
A little bit of stress amping up as you came up. Did you feel your heart rate starting to increase? And that's that body alarm reaction. Even though we're on a training scenario here, there's still a lot of self-induced stress. There's scenario-induced stress that's going in through your mind, through your body. That's what happens. Did you remember seeing that red dot when you shot that target?
I didn't.
You know what that is? That's a body alarm reaction. That's that increased blood flow to your center of visual acuity that is actually closing out everything. It's a tunnel vision, okay? And sometimes that helps us and sometimes that fights us. And that's where your mind started to inoculate after a couple shots, and then you really focused on that last shot and you took it and you hit it. So that was good. And that's why we increase the stress in these scenarios. We put the reality in there with Drake, making you think about other things. You know, you had the medical scenario, you knew you had to take care of a down shooter. So we wanted your mind all over the place, and you did a phenomenal job following through all the way. So Drake, that was a really good job with you. Single hand manipulation. Looked like you had some issues there at first trying to get the pump working.
Yep,
I know we threw that at you off the bat, and you hadn't really done that before, so that was pretty good. Just we wanted you to improvise, and you did a good job. Got the gun off.
Yeah, 25-yard double-aught buck, hitting your target, and it's not as easy as people think when you're under stress. You know, it would seem easy, but just like Travis said, I mean, when you're under stress, it took you a few rounds, like it really would. So I thought overall you did a really good job. So 25 yards, and you got your guy.
What did you remember seeing the target that might have looked a little bit different than what you've been seeing on the range in the last few days? Did it look like this at you? Or did it look like this at you? Okay, it was sideways. So if you look at this, I can already tell by the side hits. See the impacts? All coming in from the side. It's a thin profile target. So you're firing 3 shots, even with a shotgun with 25 yards, which that gun holds pretty tight pattern, is still, I mean, missing a target, and that's why fundamentals really comes into play. That's why really focus in, because we're not always gonna see this, you know, because sometimes like you just had, you saw that. So I wanted to see if you recognize that, and if you didn't recognize it, now you know for future reference that targets aren't always just looking at you. So, but you can see how your effectiveness, I mean, just completely ripped through his entire body, so that was good. And the lower shots didn't take him down. It was the upper shots that took him down, because that's where we had the balloon set inside the target. So sometimes you may think you missed, but you really hit them. In reality, people get shot multiple times and they don't go down until you get a good effective combat hit, and that's what that last shot was up top. So really good job, and I wanted you to see that, okay? All right, good job, guys. We're gonna go back and get some other students and run them through some more scenarios, get washed up and cleaned up, and we'll see you guys back at the range.
Okay.
All right, good job, guys.
For me. I'll be back.
Hey guys. All right, Jason, Ricky, you guys are 3 gunners for obviously Team JP. You've already briefed the course, right? You've already ran through it dry. That's awesome. So you know the course description, and we're gonna see what you got, okay? We're gonna put the heat on it. So this is a pretty heavy stage. It's about a 30-round stage, is that what it was?
Something like that.
Okay, 30-round stage, which means even some of the best shotgunners out there can get mind-boggled, because there's a lot of loading, a lot of counting, a lot of things that you guys have to do mentally, not just physically. So let's see who's going first.
I'm going first.
All right, Ricky, let's step up on line and hit it.
I'm good. Let's do it.
All right, shooter, are you ready? Shooter's ready. Stand by. Good job, Ricky. All right, unload, show clear. Clear, slide forward, hammer down in holster. 72-68. Good job. All right, here we go. Shooter, are you ready?
Yep.
Stand by. All right, shooter, you finished in course fire. Unload, show clear, slide forward, hammer down, holster. 79-12.
Good run, man. Thank you.
All right, guys, well, that was super hot. That was fast. That was good. Some efficiency things I'll throw at you because I always like to make good shooters even better. Even though you guys could probably be better three gunners than me, I'm sure you are. But I always try to pull out those efficiency issues. Like I noticed you had some really good stop transition moves where you were running guns and you were already set into another position where you were taking a couple more steps. Even though you had a better time in the end, you obviously had some gun malfunctions, and in a high round count stage like that with small plates that we're shooting, a lot of technical difficulties can come out, and you found them in this stage. So that's a really good job, and hope to see you guys out on the circuit one day.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Steve, Neil, what we got set up is just a basic scenario to help us educate people about patterning and different shotguns. What we're gonna do, we're all gonna do this together. We're all gonna fire one shot. We're gonna go down this hallway, but what we're gonna do is put a little bit of time in there so we get a little bit of self-induced stress or clock-induced stress. Just so people watching this or the rest of the class doesn't think that we're cheating this. All right, so we're gonna put you under a 5-second shot clock. You're gonna sprint up and then get into this corner pie over, and you have to take a pretty accurate shot to the chest. Now all of us are, what we consider more proficient, or we've been shooting for a while, so we should be able to get good solid hits. I want to see good solid hits in the chest. But what I've got set in there is a realistic human silhouette target with a steel pepper popper inside to simulate how op-buck would probably be stopped by the majority of a human medium, flesh or medium. So anything that might go outside of that, which we're trying to prevent, obviously, with our accuracy and our skill level, could possibly be a liability. So we'll talk about that when we're done doing this drill. So for right now, we're just going to run up, pie around the corner. You're going to see that silhouette. Take one center mass aim shot on it. That's it. Okay? And then we'll talk more at the end. All right, you ready? Go.
Yeah.
Let's get our eyes and ears and. Good shot.
Nice.
All right, guys, let's check out our history real quick. Basically, what we did is we fired 4 shots of and that was what, Remington Op Buck?
Remington Law Enforcement Double Op Buck 9 pellet.
Okay, so we got 9 times 4, 36 rounds. 36 rounds fired on target. Obviously, we're all aiming center mass with that. We got some high stuff here just from patterning, like we saw patterning on day one. But now let's look back here. Even with us trying to do our best to keep those rounds in that target and on this pepper popper, which is a substantially large zone for 15 feet with a small pattern on a shotgun, we still have 4 misses here. 4 misses. So if you divide 4 by 36, that's 11.1, something like that. If my mind is, or iPhone a minute ago was good. So that means that 11% of our hits, of us 4 that are substantially better shooters, is out. So now it depends on our lifestyle and what we do, whether we're law enforcement or home defense. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, my lifestyle, I don't think I would choose this, because we are basically 4 shooters out of, let's throw out a broad number. Let's say 20,000 people in the United States use a shotgun for home defense. Now, what if 11.1% of those people out there are doing the same results that we have? So that's a very broad, basic breakdown. But for me, that's a lot of misses out there in our communities. So in my lifestyle, my house, this is a liability for me and my children running around the house. If I'm making a high-risk entry or something like that, or responding to a really bad, say domestic violence as a law enforcement officer and there's shots fired, I go into this house, this is unknown. I don't know what's behind here as a law enforcement officer. I don't know what's behind here as a military guy if I'm using a shotgun. So I need to take in consideration, if my lifestyle requires a shotgun, I've got to make every effort for proper ammo selection. Maybe we could have got some tighter ammo, who knows. But maybe we're limited to a certain amount of ammo, so we need to know in our own minds and justify ourselves as individual operators that this is okay, depending on the situation that we're in. So we just like to show that that point. So let's go around back and check out the potential liability if there is one. Okay. All right. So obviously we can see we do have a paper target back here just to show the potential of having somebody or something that we don't intend to shoot behind this wall. It is a double drywall, 16-inch part studs in there, so it's it's a realistic scenario. So, but this is obviously a liability.
The importance of what we talked about for over penetration. I mean, a lot of people can look at this and say, well, with a handgun that could go through the wall too, and you're absolutely right. Handgun is going to go through the wall, but the bottom line is, generally it's going to be more limited in the round count that goes through the wall, because you have to pull the trigger constantly to get more rounds that come out of your gun. So when you look at one pull of the trigger, 9 rounds that come out of your gun, and then you go back to the guy firing a handgun and he has a couple that hit the threat in one flyer, that flyer obviously could be just as detrimental. But if you really, if we all shot this and ended up having more misses, there would be a lot more room for error here.
That's a good way to look at it. You're liable for every time you pull that trigger, because you know where your sights were specifically placed when that shot breaks. Where a shotgun, you're one sight picture, one trigger pull, and 9 shots rounds that you really can't be liable for all of them.
And the distance is going to make it as well.
Yeah, I just proved that. So thanks guys for helping us demonstrate this and get the point across here, because it may be for you, it may not be. So even though we're teaching shotgun, we need to know the full extent of shotgun.
165 dispatch. Trying to attempt to stop the vehicle, Washington Avenue, Texas Tech. Vehicle's pulling over. Driver, please exit to the rear of your vehicle. Sir, can you step back to the front of my car, please? A little bit further. Do you have an ID? Have one running! Front's clear. Back's clear. Ready? Got him covered.
All right, good job, Jenkins, good shot. Redmond, Bart, come on over. Come on in, guys, let's debrief that and talk about it.
How'd that go for you guys? Why don't you walk me through it a little bit?
Yeah, first we went on a traffic stop. Guys got out. It was normal, and then they took off running. Jenkins covered the car, and I covered with the dog, and then we trailed them into the woods.
Okay. Obviously, those are your tactics, how you guys employ, doing vehicle stops. Obviously had two guys going into the woods. Any reason why you grabbed your shotgun?
Simply because I saw the suspect on the passenger side with a handgun right into the woods. I didn't know if they had any other weapons on them, so I just decided to take a step up.
Sometimes bigger is better, right?
And for this situation specifically, we kind of, I don't want to say we set you up for failure, but we set you up to see how you would react, because when you came out of the woods here, what'd you see when we told you that, hey, there's going to be a bridge back on a creek and you're not allowed to go across that bridge? We obviously set that in for the live fire drill, but what did you see when you got to this point?
Suspect about 100 yards out, handgun pointed in my direction.
Yep, 100-yard shot with a shotgun. So now, if you wouldn't have had that shotgun, obviously it shows where that roll came in very well there, because you took a 100-yard shot with a shotgun.
Looks
and
like
obviously
you hit him down here.
Yeah, that's a good, obviously combat accurate, hit.
At 100 yards.
Where were you holding that?
Center mass.
Center mass. So you had some, minimal deviation there. Obviously, that's a lot of lead in somebody's stomach. That's going to put them down hard. So
that's really good.
Doing that with a handgun at 100 yards, probably going to fire 5, 6, 8 shots. But now where are those other shots going? Because how often do we get to shoot a handgun at 100 yards? So that shotgun just automatically went right into its role and did what it needed to do. And that was a good slug changeover. We were hoping that you would catch that and go, instead of firing that buck, because we had you cruiser ready with bucking the gun, but you were thinking 100 yards from the class last 3 days, you're like, slug changeover, boom. And you did it quick, got your hit, which obviously you weigh that in a time aspect of draw my handgun, fire 8 shots and take 5, 6 seconds, or do a quick slug changeover. And well, you did that in like 2 seconds, man. And that gun was going off and you knocked that dude down, and you see how that measures out there with that weapon system. So really good job, guys. It was awesome.
Yeah, good teamwork. Bart did a good job too.
Good job, Bart.
Over the past 3 days, obviously, we've been providing you guys with a lot of feedback, so to speak. What's most important now is to kind of get your perspective and your take on how things have gone for you individually. So, Neil, why don't you tell us about your experiences?
It was the second gun I ever bought was a shotgun, but I bought it, took a class, put it away, probably did not shoot it again until my last class. It just goes between, I'll shoot my shotgun probably the least out of any gun that I have. But like a lot of people, it is one of the guns that's next to the bed. I'll have a handgun, and then there's also a shotgun. And one of the other things they said is all the things that you have to think about. My scenario, I'm going around a corner, I'm looking for a target. We found out what happens if your pellets go through the wall. It's a lot of things to be thinking about when you're trying to maybe protect your own life or somebody else. So a lot of the things really spoke to me specifically. I don't think that was on purpose, but it was an eye-opener for me as somebody who's had a shotgun for a long time, loves to shoot it, but rarely does.
What I took away most from this was what I found out was the abilities of the shotgun, a much better understanding of them, especially in the terms of patterning the gun. Slug select manipulations was huge. There were some new techniques that were definitely eye-openers for me. A lot of things that I could also take back into other training situations on my own and to other students and other agencies, but really was just a good core fundamental on manipulating the various systems and understanding their plus and weaknesses to each of them. And that was probably the biggest thing to take away.
It was a really good class. I've become a lot more proficient with the shotgun. We don't shoot them a lot, as much as we should in law enforcement, or train with them as well. But I definitely learned several new techniques to bring back and teach to the students that I teach.
I came into this class wanting to learn more about the shotgun, which I did. The shotgun is not my primary weapon, but I found the shotgun to be kind of heavy for me. But after I started manipulating it, I got the actions down, and I feel confident that I could pick up a shotgun and use it if I had to.
Great class. I really enjoyed myself coming into the class. I knew that it was going to be something that was going to be uncomfortable for me, as I don't spend a lot of time shooting a shotgun. I know in the law enforcement background that it's a weapon that is underutilized, and I now understand the reasons why it's underutilized. There's so many different options, whether it's slug selection or understanding the patterns and understanding what capacity you can use the weapon in. A lot of patrol officers, patrol deputies don't necessarily understand the total capabilities of the weapon system. So now kind of being exposed to those has opened my eyes and made me realize that it is an underutilized platform, and it's going to help me in the future to encourage my supervisors, my superiors, and other law enforcement officers that I come in contact with, bringing their patrol deputies and officers up to speed on the actual manipulation and understanding what the weapon system is capable of.
Over the last 3 days, I've learned a lot about the shotgun. I've learned a lot about the particular weapon system that I carry on duty and that I protect my home with. What most sticks out to me from this class that I've learned is the actual slug changeover, 1 and 2 slug, the when, the where, and the how to actually employ that technique. That's what sticks out most to me about this class.
One of the things, just like some of these guys have said already, that I learned is in law enforcement, when we think long gun, it's automatically some type of rifle, but really in all actuality we could use that shotgun with the slug changeovers and stuff to take a longer shot, especially like the conservation of ammo, because when you get out of that car with that shotgun, that's all you have, and using it properly and in the right places and the right times and just holding on to it.
What I got out of the class is a different level. You know, Jason and I, we grew up in Louisiana, we shot all our life. We started shooting pistol because we realized that, you know, we need to protect our family, our businesses, our community. Started shooting 3-gun for the same reason, and in competition we're at a certain stress level, we're at a certain level that helped prepare us for an emergency situation, and we've lived through that. We've been through Katrina, we've been through Rita. We were the first piece of high land where Jason had food, I owned a pharmacy, we had drugs, and even though the police officers were great, they'd give their lives in a second. It's our responsibility to make sure that they don't have to give their lives. And so this course brought us to a higher level, where a different stress level, different weapons manipulations, teach us tactics, thinking, so that if we have to deploy that lethal force, that the bad guy goes down and we don't, that the stress doesn't overtake us, so we can still put those rounds on target. And like I said, just a whole different level.
Thanks, Ricky.
The most important thing I got out of this class is load management is really important, and being smooth and making sure your hits. You know, in 3-gun, if you miss, your whole loading sequence is messed up. You know, loading slugs in is all very important. So and also watching everybody shoot different platforms of guns, the shotguns, and different brands. Every shotgun works differently, and then that helped out a lot. So if I ever have to use somebody else's shotgun or something, I'll be familiar with it. So you know, it was a good class. I learned a lot of different how to work the different shotguns. So it was really good.
Guys, thanks for the feedback. We really appreciate that, and we also really appreciate you coming out here and keeping an open mind, because again, this system, or the multiple variations of that system, is very complicated. We've been running the shotgun pretty hard. We've been finding failure points. We've hit on a brief history of the shotgun. We've went into all the different uses and characteristics of a shotgun. Obviously, we saw everybody out here had different uses and different characteristics. You know, the shotgun, again, it's a truly complicated weapon system. A lot of people in our society kind of throw that aside. They say, oh, it's the weapon that you point and shoot. It's the weapon that you give to your wife when you go out on the road and say, hey, just point and shoot it. But do we really truly understand this complicated weapon system? And obviously for the last 3 days, I think we all found, even us experienced ones, found a whole new world with the shotgun. And I'll be honest, you know, Chris, he's been running a shotgun most all your career. And that was kind of a primary weapon for you most of the time. Obviously besides your handgun, but for me, it's always been a specific weapon system or a mission set weapon system. And for me, when I come out and I grab a shotgun, it's not like a handgun or a carbine where I can just go to the range, do my drills, and I'm good. Shotguns where I've got to really think about it and go, oh, I got to break out the training rounds, I've got to get it, you know, dry practice with it, because unconsciously it's not there. It's not there unless I spend a lot of time on that weapon system, because it's not just inserting a source of ammunition into a magazine well and then charging the gun and going. I'm inserting multiple sources of ammunition, and each one's got to go in efficiently and consistently, and that's where we start getting those bugs. And then you start working different weapon systems, and then all the bugs start to come out on top of the ammo feeding issues, and then it's only a limited capacity weapon system anyway. So Again, I think everybody's kind of climbed that ladder of excellence and just understanding a little bit more on the weapons manipulation side with the shotgun, and because it is seriously forgotten about.
I think everybody did a really good job. Everybody's gun is slightly different here, which is great. We have a lot of different demographics. Primarily, just like Travis said, a lot more thought has to go into the shotgun. And the bottom line is there are some really good shotgun shooters out there. Really good instructors that do nothing but really concentrating on running that shotgun, and they do it really effective and really efficiently as well. And that's obviously what the ultimate goal is. The problem that we have with the shotgun is for the average person, it's one of those where we shoot it a little bit and then we put it away. And when we put it away and time elapses at that point in time, it can get complicated. Now, some people just run it with one type of ammo type, and that is obviously going to help because at that point, all you are really having to focus on is your loading techniques and styles. But when you look at the versatility of the shotgun and the fact that you can actually change to different loadouts, that again is where the true art is, and that is obviously based on the condition of your gun at that moment in time. Whether you were cruiser safe or whether you were cruiser ready or whether you just got into an engagement, do you have space in your magazine, do you not? So the one thing that definitely happens with the shotgun, unlike most weapon systems, is you really have to constantly be thinking about the condition in which it is in, and you will make mistakes. We make mistakes. I'll come out here, run a course, and I will make mistakes. The bottom line is it doesn't matter that you make a mistake. The fact of the matter is how you correct it, and that your brain is doing something to correct that action that just happened. Now, we have been really concentrating on the last 3 days of running a shotgun. Where I get a little upset, and there's going to be some controversy here, is knowing what you guys obviously just went through, and knowing that as even Travis and I are, as what we would say as experienced shooters, carbine, pistol, subgun doesn't bother us whatsoever. 12 gauge, I really have to play with that a lot to make sure that I can manipulate it under dynamic stress, which is most important when you have that body alarm reaction. When it's 2 o'clock in the morning, your alarm's going off and kids are screaming and all that chaos is happening. It's not just sometimes as simple as just point and shoot. I have to work in action. If I have a pump, if I have a semi-auto, it's a little bit more of a benefit. The fact where I start to have a problem is I don't believe that the shotgun should be given to everybody. And what I mean by that is there are both males and females that have a hard time either one, manipulating the gun because their brain is just too full, and that's okay, or the size of their body just does not allow the controllability for that platform. I worry about the mother who's there with her children trying to get to the children's room, run through the house with a 12 gauge, which is not only probably on average 8 to 9 pounds, but actually function that thing. Is the safety on? Is the safety off? Is the mag tube full? You look at that person who hasn't just gotten done with 3 days of shotgun and really understood that employment, and that person is now at a severe disadvantage. But I have 3 children. And if somebody breaks into my house, I need to get to them because they are on the other side of my house, which means that I have to make movement to get there, which means I want something wieldable. I want something with a light on it. We haven't even gotten into that poor woman who doesn't have a light on the end of her shotgun or has to hold a handheld and a phone. How do you just do all that? You just can't. You can't accomplish it. Not well. So the thing for me is I will run a handgun so I can work the light one-handed, so I can grab my daughter or my son, so I can get them protected, so I can barricade up if I need to, and then I can call the police from there and get law enforcement assistance. But I can do that with one hand because I can safely employ the handgun with one hand.
Some of you may be asking, like, well, why are you saying that you sound like you don't advocate a shotgun for home defense? Well, we're not saying that. We're saying that if you have the proper skills and training and proficiency, yes, it could be used for a home defense situation. But I'll be honest, I don't use a shotgun for home defense. I've got three children myself. And that's the last thing I'm going to be doing is grabbing a long gun in a situation where I do need something more wieldable. So that's my personal preference, and I believe it's Chris's as well. So yes, it's an effective tool, but just like you saw in the drywall and the house template here a second ago, 1 or 2 little pellets or rounds could actually miss your target. Again, I've got children running around my house. If somebody breaks in and there's gunshots going off, are my kids getting up and running through the house going, what's going on? And I go to the room and they're not there, and now all of a sudden I see a threat in the hallway, and then I start engaging. I've got to be aware of my target's foreground and background, okay? And that goes for any situation. That goes for situations if you're a law enforcement officer and you're responding to an active shooter call or some domestic violence call and there's gunshots going off. You've got to know what's in that background, and sometimes you don't know. So you have to make sure that you're using the proper weapon system or using it effectively.